So we'll start with a moment of reflection. Thank you. And I'll now read our Indigenous Acknowledgement Statement. So we'd like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards of the land. The municipality is located within the boundary of Treaty 18, Region of 1818, which is the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Wendat, Wyandotte peoples. We have no members of the public present. So we'll now ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Joanne, Lori, seconded by Lori, all in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, do I see any? No? Okay, moving on, thank you. Reports to be received as information, so I'd like a mover and a seconder to receive of the action plan, the Q3 financial report, the 2026 draft budget, and the 26 library board evaluation results. Mover, Chris, seconded by Carol. All in favor? Carried. Previous minutes. So I'd like mover. Is any comments on the previous minutes? No. So a mover, Chris, seconded by Joanne.
Sure. Yeah.
The board approves the library minutes of October 16th as circulated. And we have no business arising, that's not on the agenda. We have no deputation, so we did receive a letter, the correspondence from Tom Sternad, South Georgian Bay Media Association regarding the immediate need for library expansion. So I think we just received that. Thank you. Okay, so now we will move to our strategic plan updates and action items. And our first item under F.1, under community hubs, is a presentation on an interim report from Salter Pilon on our space utilization study. So over to you.
Okay. Is everybody able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So for those of you that may or may not have met me before, my name is Mark Bartolucci. I'm an associate with Salter Pilon Architecture Inc. And I'm accompanied today with Julie and Claire, who've been helping me out on the research that we've been doing so far and on developing the report and the study as we've been working through it. So this has been a collective effort between the three of us, and hopefully this presentation will help you understand kind of where we're at, where we're headed, and some of our thoughts along the way. So I know that I guess Jen, I'll be relying on you to help me navigate the presentation. So maybe the easiest way is when I'm ready to switch to another slide, I can just say next slide or something like that, if that works.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, then in that case, I think we can move on to the next slide. And so before I dive too far into it, we're just going to start off with a very brief agenda to essentially explain the structure of this presentation. So we've been doing a ton of work behind the scenes to develop the research, to conduct studies, and compile and analyze all of that information that we've received and developed. And so the very first thing that we're going to talk about is essentially a summary of all the research that's been done so far. And then after that, we'll talk about, generally speaking, the results of those studies, some of the information that has really stood out as a result of that information gathering, some of the most pressing needs and issues that seem to have been highlighted, and then after that we'll talk about the sort of preliminary direction as far as space planning is concerned, and I'll be able to talk about that a little bit further when we get into it. And then at the end of the presentation we'll talk about next steps as we work towards finalizing our study. And after that we can have a little question and comment period to see if there's anything else to talk about there. So I guess we can move on to the next slide. So I think that this slide is a very powerful one in the sense that you can see that there's a ton of items here listed on the left side of the screen. At the very top, you'll see that we identify site visits. Salter Pilon has been to the library 3 times during the time of the study to see the library, talk to people, conduct studies. So you can see that our first visit was on October 6th, and that was intended to be essentially an initial visit for not only the Ellie Shore Library, but also the other properties that the Blue Mountain Libraries are considering for potential use or change or anything else like that. So you can see that on that day we went and saw the Ellie Shore Library, of course, but then we also went to Craigleith to see the Heritage Depot, the community center, and then we also went over to the Blue Mountains Fire Station number 2, which we understand that the firefighters will be moving out of in the next 2 or 3 years or so. So to see whether or not there was an opportunity there for the library. And then on the 23rd, Julie and I came back to the library to meet specifically just with the staff within the library. We had an initial presentation to the entire staff to explain to them what it is that we're doing, what our goal is, to get a better understanding of what the staff needs in order to do their job to the best of their abilities, provide them with the things that they need, the resources that they need, and get a better understanding of that. So when we had that presentation, we then sort of broke it out so that we could talk to each individual staff member on a one-on-one basis. During that study, we essentially asked, we looked to understand what it is that they did, what their specific jobs, their roles were, what sort of resources that they needed, what sort of workspaces that they needed, to see if they had any other thoughts or comments. And unfortunately on that day there was, I think, 3 or 4 staff members that weren't in attendance. So we sent the questions that we asked to all the staff members over to those other staff members that weren't in attendance to get their feedback as well. So that way we could ensure that we got thoughts and comments from every staff member from the library. And
Sorry,
then on
can you just hold for a sec? We seem to have a concert happening.
Oh, it's probably next door here.
Just give me one moment, sorry, unanticipated disruption.
Somebody's testing a system maybe.
It's pretty lovely music.
Singing tone. Nice music.
So-
I know.
So it's funny that comes up because we do actually talk about noise. So I think that's this is a good representation of one of the results that we found. Spoiler alert: it's noisy.
That's quite
Yeah.
There's one here. There's pink one. Make my notes on.
I mean, it's there.
The one thing I don't need.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
Keep going.
Good to
so
go.
back to you.
Yes.
So we met with all the staff to get their thoughts on the library and things that we could do to improve it. And then on the 28th, we had our community engagement session. I believe some of you were in attendance there. For those of you that were there, you would have seen that we set up a series of boards throughout the gallery space with a series of different questions and tasks, I guess we could say, associated with it. Some of the boards talked about where people were coming from, what people used the library for, what sort of services that they liked, and we'll dive into that a little bit later in this presentation. But the idea for that session was to try and get as much community feedback as we could. like I said, we'll dive into that a little bit later. And then along with that, I know that the Blue Mountain Libraries have developed a long series of has conducted a long series of research and have developed many reports in the past, and you can see that we have quite a few of them listed here on this slide. I know that even going further back than 2018, there were additional reports generated before then, but you know, these are the ones that that we've been using as well in our research. So we've gone through all of them to help us better understand from a big picture all of the different bits of information that has been developed and has been researched in the past to help us best understand all of the factors that play into this library. So you can see that even back in 2018, there was another feasibility study and space plan that was developed similar to essentially what we're doing now. Staff reports, a lot of different reports that talk about not only the library, but as the community as a whole. You know, I know that one of the most recent reports, which is down at the bottom of the slide here, the 2025 MRFA report, speaks to recreation centers and the potential for the Blue Mountains or region generally, and whether or not they should have that. And I know that that's a bit of an active discussion when from a municipal level at this time. I think we can move on to the next slide. So now we'll talk a little bit more about the studies that we did, and you know, this is a picture from the community engagement session. You can see that we have a bunch of colorful stickers on these boards from people that had come in to engage with the session, to provide their thoughts, their feedback, and that sort of thing. So the board that you can see furthest in the image, that was a floor plan of the library as it currently stands, to try and best understand which parts of the library that people occupy and use the most. The one that that family there is looking at is determining whether or not people walk to the library, drive to the library, take their bike, or do something else. And then the last one there in that image is talking about time of day. The reasoning behind some of the questions that we asked, and you can see that all of the questions that we asked identified off to the right side there, which also talks about noise level, which I think we've experienced today is a little bit cumbersome at times. It also talks about the services that the library provides, what services people would like to have. The intent of the survey is to really understand how the library is being used and what it needs to make it better and to help future-proof it. And so we spent a lot of time developing the questions and the boards that we had so that we could try and ask those questions in the most clear, concise way possible. And I think generally speaking, it was successful. You'll also see that not only did we have the community engagement session, but we also, to try and make sure that we got as much feedback as possible in the amount of time that we had available, we also set up the boards in the library for about a week after following this presentation, so that anybody that wasn't in attendance that evening had the chance to provide their feedback if they happen to be visiting the library during another time. We also created an online survey, and we received some feedback that way as well from various members of the community. And then we also sent some surveys to schools to get some feedback from teenagers and from children to help us better inform us for the way that we should be considering the child and teen spaces of the library. So I think that's everything that I have for that. So we can move on to the next slide. So this is a bit of a summary of some of the results that we'd gotten from these studies. So unsurprisingly, at Ellie Shore, the majority of feedback that we received are from people that come directly from the town itself. We did receive some feedback from people outside of Thornbury. We got some feedback from Craigleith as well, from Collingwood. I think that we even saw somebody from Wasaga Beach coming in as well to provide their thoughts. So generally speaking, we got a lot of feedback from the community as a whole.
Can I interject and ask the question?
Sure.
How many people, is this?
So from the in-person community engagement session, we had about 45 people visit. And then when we include the online surveys, the schools, and package that together with the community engagement session, we got a little over 100 people. I don't know exactly what the number is, but that's the approximation.
Okay,
And this slide reflects the total of all of them?
This slide reflects the community engagement session and the online survey. We didn't ask kids where they were coming from, so that wasn't factored into it. And similarly, it doesn't include where staff are coming from.
was it the school next door that was the,
And the high school,
in Meaford?
yes.
Okay,
Great, okay.
okay, thank you. You can go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
Hello?
Claire, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to speak to the actual, I have the exact value. It's this board represents 179 people. So that's where the percentages are coming from, that total.
Okay, so if it was 45 on then it's about 130 odd. It would be helpful to have the end, the sample size, in the next iteration, that's all.
Sure.
Just for your reference, all we can see is the presentation. So if someone has their hand up, that's great if you can see and.
Yes.
Or can you?
Sorry, I can.
Oh, sorry, Jen can. Okay. Good.
I
It's me.
apologize. A better effort
That's
to
fine.
monitor the screen. And yeah, Councilman McKinley does have his hand up as well.
Okay.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, thank you. So just so I'm hearing it right, so there was between 130 and 170 participants that took part of the survey.
170 total.
170 that participated. You know what? Just for context and retrospect, that is really, really excellent, because normally when we do a town-wide survey, the average number is 700 out of 14,000 people. So I would say that you're, once again, punching above the weight class here. That's really, really, as though I know might not sound like a lot, but what you've achieved there is a lot. I just wanted to put that in there for everybody's, just for the context, okay?
Okay, thank you. Yes?
So it's not.
Okay, 179,
Yeah.
that's the total.
Yeah,
Yeah, 179 is the total.
Gotcha.
45 were here in person, so that means that it's about 134 in
Surveys.
the survey. Yeah, I don't know if we would agree that that's a good number.
It's a good reference point, though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I make
Sorry,
one
yeah.
comment too?
Yes.
The only other thing I would mention is we had 2 weeks.
yeah.
2 weeks, like our timeline for the project was really small. Lots of effort, I will say, went into trying our best to hear from everyone. But what I had mentioned to the project team too is that all of the other previous studies that were included and will be included in the final report and overall analysis includes a lot of very valuable feedback from the community that is related to the study. So I do think that's important to mention, and it also sort of even speaks to the importance of going through the exercise, even with the MRFA. If next steps we do have a little bit of direction now, but it's making use of the data that we already have in addition to what we could collect in that really short time frame.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
Exactly. sorry, that's the part that I forgot to tag on there. Like, I knew it was a short window that you were able to get this survey completed in, whereas townwide surveys are months worth of works and multiple engagement sessions. So anyway, I'll be quiet.
I was really pleasantly surprised at the number of people that came in person.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good turnout.
It definitely seems too that the community responds a lot more to sort of those interactive elements in person versus a survey, which I think we already kind of assumed, especially with youth, but we still went through the exercise of at least trying to adapt those other methods to get into the schools and to actually hear from.
Does this distribution, Jen, mirror the distribution of the of what we know from our own data? So for our library cards, for example?
I don't know the answer to that question,
Okay.
but I can look into it. Just
Okay,
in terms of, you know,
well, it's just, is
this is
this,
similar to most people in Thornbury have a membership versus.
yeah,
I will pull that info. I don't know.
but I mean, we also have the gallery, so a lot of people come for more than just books, as we well know, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. But you can go on.
Sorry, was that to me?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, thank you everybody for your feedback. It's very much appreciated, and it is something that we will be continuing to factor into our research here. And I guess to echo Jennifer's point, our study and our feasibility is not being conducted in isolation. It's factoring in all of the research that has been conducted over the years to date as well, so that the results of our research and I guess the outcome of our recommendations is not only based on the work that we've done so far, but also the work that many other people have done as well. Maybe we can move on to the next slide. So yeah, so this is just intended to be a sort of overall summary of some of the results that we've received. We know that the majority of the people come to the library by car. So that's an important thing for consideration when we're thinking about the parking lot. We know that in the summertime people walk, so pedestrian accessibility is obviously very important. And you know, I think that it's not necessarily surprising for anybody in this room, but the library gets a lot of attention. A lot of people are visiting it on a regular basis, and you know, the results of our study is demonstrating that. You know, I think we had the experience a little bit earlier during this meeting. This library is not necessarily the quietest library around, and you know, I think that's okay, because I think it's part of its character. And I think unsurprisingly as well, a lot of the visitors come to the library in the afternoon. You know, I guess we're still a little bit too early yet, but we'll get a series of school children visiting a library soon. They'll start throwing all their winter gear off to the side so that they can get into the library and do what they want to do. And you know, that's something that we experienced during one of our visits, was the I guess the after school rush of kids sort of invading the library in a very entertaining way. So
Can I just ask where, so is that based on, so where's the data that backs up that the highest activity is between 12 and 3? Is that from the staff who told you that, or did you?
That's from the surveys.
so
It
it's
was in
from
the survey?
it's from both the surveys and from staff feedback.
Yeah, I was surprised because I thought 3 o'clock, like 4 o'clock would be the peak because all the school kids are coming. And that wasn't a group that got tapped into during the survey or during the engagement that we did in the other room, the in-person engagement.
The kids definitely interacted with the boards when we had them that 1 week across from the circulation desk.
Okay.
Would that, so I'm surprised that staff agreed with that, because I would have thought that staff would have said it was after 3 o'clock when all the kids come from the school.
I think it'd be interesting just to see, so in person, like on the boards, percentages, and I don't know if it was consistent to the, where people put their stickers on the boards versus the surveys that came in. Anyway,
Sorry.
it's just, you know, it's an interesting piece of information, I think, because when I think about it, if adults are responding, right, it's when do I come?
Yes.
Right, when I'm, you know, I come here before 3.
Yeah, because 3 o'clock is too noisy.
Because it's too noisy before 3, and when I come here after 3, I'm like, oh, damn, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder, even like the kids, they might have participated, but I don't know how many of them did,
Yeah.
right? And so, because when they're here, they're doing other things.
I just wonder
Anyway,
too, if it's related
but-
to the type of activity, because when you, is that activity that's interacting with staff, or is it just people in the library? Because a lot of the programs are here in the morning, and there's a lot of people that feed in, but they're not interacting with the staff at that point.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I need to dig that.
Yeah, because that one surprised me
Dig
when I was
down
looking
into
at all the results. The rest of the results didn't really surprise me, but that one did.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the school bell next door rings at 3:15 is the end of the day.
Thank you. And so that's interesting. It would be, again, just digging into this more as we get into, but literally what time programming is and which like through the week, right? To your point, if most program is in the morning and we know how many people are coming at that time, even though it might not be a library program. It's just interesting. Yeah.
So I think something that's important to consider with this as well is that it's not specific to weekdays; it's to the week entirely. So it would also include weekends into that as well. And then I think one of the nice things is that all of the research that we do is obviously important, but I think that the time of day doesn't necessarily have the most significant impact in the way that we necessarily design the building. We need to design the building to be large enough to accommodate even the busiest times, whether that's at 9 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Regardless of the time of day, the building needs to be sized appropriately. I think that this is very informative for the library when it comes to developing the programming of activities in the future. But you know, I think that as far as the information that we have, this is maybe one of those items that as far as determining what to do with the building moving forward is one of the pieces that's maybe not quite as impactful as some of the others.
Just to add a comment about the visits, I wonder the extent to which people say, well, I came in to the gallery for a program. I didn't come into the library. And they distinguish between kind of the two wings.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
So if we can actually move to the next slide, we do sort of speak to that. So this slide talks about the 5 programs that, or maybe not necessarily programs, but the 5 things that the library offers that gets the most attention or most popularity. So I think relatively unsurprising when it comes to the Ellie Shore Library, the exchange of books and items from the whether it just be books or technology or anything else is one of the pieces that the community uses a lot. The gallery and the exhibition spaces gets a lot of attention as well. The Wi-Fi and the public computers are another piece that that gets a lot of use. Adult programs and the room bookings as well is something that's very much in demand. And then when we're looking at Blue Mountains, or I guess maybe we could say Craigleith area generally, the feedback that we received was exchanging books, of course. It'd be nice to have, there's the museum there, but perhaps a gallery space there too. Recreational programming is something to consider, educational programming, and then Wi-Fi and public computers in that area as well. So
Can I just ask for clarification? So you said exchanging books, but it was more than exchanging books. Was it just specifically books, or is it the library things and other
Library
things.
things and everything else.
Yeah, so can you just, when you're presenting this, expand it, it's more than just books?
Thank you. Great. Point.
I'm kind of interested that there's two types of programming identified in Craiglee, and yet room booking is not. Because often programming requires, well, room.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think there's a correlation there between the two types of programming and space issues and the ability to book in that area.
Yeah, I think if the question came down to the amount of space that was available, there's certainly opportunities there for lack of a better word, doing double duty, a space that can be used for meetings, but could also be used for educational or recreational programming.
And or the greater desire by people thinking about that area. So when you think about room booking and even that, it's more about like meeting space. Certainly when the icons are suggesting that you need meeting space in car, you know,
Rather
it's
than
interesting.
booking,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Defining room booking versus, meeting space, how they get it.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot about needing a community hub and the ability for people to get together, and that there isn't the space
Yeah.
anywhere in Craiglee to do that.
So then if we move on to the next slide. So then the next slide is showing items that the public has communicated that they would like to see at the library. So the previous slide was talking about the things that are already being offered. And then this one is intended to communicate what they would like at the Ellie Shore Library. So this is a word cloud for those that might not be familiar. Basically what it means is that the words that are the largest on the screen are the things that had received the most sort of commentary from people. So a lot of people talked about large program space. A lot of people talked about parking. A lot of people talked about cafes, which I thought was a little bit surprising. Private study spaces as well was something that people noted as a frequent thing that they would like to have offered at Ellie Shore. And then you can see in the smaller text, it's intended to represent items that are not necessarily left out per se, but didn't receive nearly as much of attention or as much interest. So, for example, a commercial kitchen got very little interest from the community. Food pantries, sort of medium, large study spaces, that kind of thing. So this is just intended to communicate what sort of got the most attention there.
So the makerspace, that's surprising, huh? Because we've been saying that it's
But I wonder if a lot of people don't understand what it means.
exactly,
I don't think they do. I didn't
I
know
think-
what it meant before.
yeah.
I assume teen space, like we think about makerspace as being youth/teen, but I think if you ask me to choose one or the other, I'd say teen space. I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
Well,
don't,
it's a question of how you design that space
Yeah.
that makes it a maker space
Yeah.
versus just a teen space, to me anyways.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
I was surprised by the cafe coming out so big.
Yeah, me too.
me too.
Especially for Thornbury, like I could see Craig Lee,
Well,
like what do you?
But I mean, you just walk 10 minutes down the road and you've
Exactly,
got,
either way.
yeah, either way, yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it very clear that this was actually asking about LES at that point, as opposed to just generally?
Well, I like it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, would you like to see the library have a cafe? Oh, but we wanted in Craiglee, actually.
Was that in one of our
I-
studies that came out?
Yeah,
Cafe was somewhere in there too.
I believe the board, Mark, could you clarify? I'm pretty sure the board did specify it was Ellie Shore.
It did, correct.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
People
And
don't
then
live
some.
far. That's why every town has so many coffee shops.
Well, now,
People don't
In
live
this
far.
athletic area.
Yeah.
And do they want to sit and have a coffee and read a book? Maybe like
Oh, yeah.
the Starbucks in the chapters all over
Yeah.
the place.
Okay. Sorry. Keep going back.
well, again, this is 179 people, so we may not have gotten the people that would be interested in the makerspace to participate.
Mhm.
Maybe they're not here to fill out to put their dots on the board because they're in a makerspace somewhere else.
Well, and I think I agree with Chris. People don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too off topic, but I do want to make one comment about maker spaces. if you go into any school, whether it's elementary, high school now, the library space has essentially been transformed into a learning commons, which typically includes a lot of technology that schools didn't used to have. So, you know, if at any point, say down the road, outside of the scope of this study, we're building a makerspace, it would be, where I'm going with this is I think a makerspace, especially for youth, looks a lot different in a public library than maybe it did 10 years ago. So are our children coming to a public library now to use technology that they use in the school? I think it's just worth considering down the road.
Interesting.
I don't even know, actually, now that I think of it, what a makerspace, I thought it was just a 3D printer.
No, when I was in Edmonton, they had all these little rooms with different functions in each one. So if you wanted to record a CD or something, you could play your musical instrument, and they have all the things there. If you wanted to learn how to sew or whatever, maybe not iron, but design, dressmaker.
I
It
can
was all
sort of
different things.
Yeah.
I can sort of
Sorry,
speak to that a little bit in the sense that a makerspace is a bit of an open term. It can mean all sorts of different things in the grand scheme of things. It could be very elaborate or it could be very minimal. In the case of the LA Shore, currently it's got a relatively minimal what we call creator space, I think, at the moment. But the concept is generally similar. It's meant to be a space that provides the resources that you need to make things, whether that's sewing, whether that's recording music or making a movie, or in some cases, even in larger wood shops, it might even have, or maker spaces, it might even have a wood shop or a space to work on cars and that kind of thing. And it really just depends on what the space needs and what people want to do with them. I know that traditionally the idea is, I guess, 3D printers. That seems to be a common theme there. But you know, going back to sort of Jen's comment about elementary schools and high schools especially, although we never really necessarily called them maker spaces in the past, high schools have always had maker spaces, whether it's a wood shop, a metal shop, or a home rec room or something like that. All of the programmatic elements that are being used in high schools to teach kids how to get ready for life are essentially maker spaces when you sort of take a look at it. And you know, the concept is very similar at elementary schools. Our office does a ton of elementary schools all over the province, and the Learning Commons is a very consistent theme throughout all of them. Every school board, every school, even the Ministry of Education loves them. And basically the idea of a Learning Commons is it's an open space that is available to serve whatever programmatic need the school determines it wants to do. So whether it's having additional spaces for computers or iPads, or maybe it's a space where people can hang out and learn to read or write or do whatever sort of activity the school decides is appropriate is usually what a Learning Commons is kind of the idea for. So yeah, I guess as to sort of go back to what I was saying before, I think makerspace is a bit of an open term, and it can mean all sorts of different things, and hopefully that's the sort of message that I'm communicating there.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide.
So yes, please. So this is a bit of a summary of the various items based on all the research that's been done so far that we think the library needs. So from a staff workspace perspective, for those of you that have been in the sort of back office sort of workspace, you would have noticed that it's pretty tight. It's a little bit cramped, and depending on which desk you're sitting at, you're hitting your knee on a piece of pipe that's sticking out of the wall, or if you're Jen, you hear the toilets flushing constantly, or if you're a volunteer, you're working in the lunchroom while people are trying to warm up their food or do something like that. So the staff workspace is in need of improvement, and so that's what you speak to on this slide a little bit. Based on the staffing at the library, we've determined that we need 2 offices with doors, one for the CO and one for the person that represents human resources. Everything else can be in a little bit more of an open space, so 8 desks for the staff. They all need space for storage. A lot of them are working on sorting items, whether it's books or gallery items or technology or something like that. They all need space for storage and for sort of managing physical materials. We also have people that are helping with IT, and they need space for computers and updating iPads and recording videos for information and that sort of thing as well. So there's quite a bit of space needed for staff workspaces. They obviously need updated furniture for better ergonomics. Sit-stand desks are a very common thing nowadays that we think is important here. An improved lunch space, like I was saying before, the volunteer is working in the lunch space, and that doesn't seem very appropriate for them. And it also takes up space in that room, which is less than ideal for everybody. So a dedicated or improved lunch or staff spaces is certainly important. The staff washroom in that back space is also very tight and cramped, so it's not necessarily the most accessible room, which is an issue for certain people. And then even having a space for staff to meet either internally or with guests. So whether it's like an IT service thing, or it's to just have an internal sort of discussion, a space that can provide that need would also be beneficial. So as far as staff workspaces are concerned, it needs to get bigger is essentially the summary there. And then when we're talking about public spaces, there's all sorts of things there that are important to talk about. There's reading spaces and study spaces. Right now, the library is relatively open, and so that's not necessarily conducive to everybody that's coming there to either do homework or they're doing remote work or anything else like that. Some people are okay with the noise, but some people might need something a little bit quieter or a little bit more isolated, and that's a need that's been identified. Gallery and program space is very obviously something that is used a lot. So additional gallery and program space is a very obvious piece to this puzzle as well that is needed.
Can I just clarify? You said additional gallery and program, but it's got a slash.
Correct.
If you're intending them to be sort of one can be used for either, is that the intent? Or do we need additional gallery space and we need additional program space?
So the gallery as it's being used right now is not just being used as a gallery. It's being used for programmatic activities. And so that's why we've shown it the way that it is shown now. I think that this...
So we don't necessarily need a bigger gallery. We need more room for program. Like, yeah, I think I'm with Joanne. I don't know what that means.
I think, just clarity, because I believe we definitely, what I would see from the other notes and what you've just shown us is we definitely need additional programming space. If it continues to be gallery / programming, then the limitation on that is we can't have a sculpture show. All our only art, the only type of art we can show is something that you hang on the wall.
It's true.
So, and just in terms of clarity of what we're seeing and what you're discovering and then ultimately recommending. If it's both, it's both. But if it's one versus the other, I just think it's important that we specify. So it helps us prioritize too.
Yeah, and I don't think that it needs to be one versus the other. I think that it's very much something that can work together.
Would you want to see them separately, Joanne? Is that what you're suggesting?
I mean, I'm asking the question,
Yeah.
and I'm just pointing it just for your consideration as you work through recommendations. If you're suggesting that we need more and it's multi-use space or to be used for either, then that we have to make a decision about the type of gallery it is. or the type of programming. So it also means that we can't have permanent tables in there for programming because we need to move them out. You know, you're not going to constantly move them out of the way. So I'm just kind of thinking your next steps in terms of recommendation,
So
just
as,
being really clear.
so
You
as
can't
far,
have Sorry, I was gonna say, as you raise, you can't have sculptures around on the floor if there's an extra set
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if
so
we
I,
need-
it sounds like we're leaning towards having those two as separate items. Without Joanne blatantly saying it, but if you hear.
I
the
think that's
convers-
what I'm hearing from the numbers is that
Yeah.
programming space, we need dedicated programming space.
So programming space is different than gallery space in our minds.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
It
again,
just happens to be in the same area. Like when we had the canoe there, it was a problem for the seniors fitness people. They weren't that happy with.
And the piano takes up a lot of space.
And I didn't see any data that suggests we need more gallery space.
Right,
I do see recommendation, we need more program space.
yeah.
I also wondered, are these in any particular order?
The need summary, yeah. Because cafe right in the middle, like I would, you know, I mean, that was kind of a neat idea. I know I probably put a sticker there because, oh, a cafe, okay, why not? Would be kind of nice, but in terms of priorities, I would place it low down. Very low.
I don't think they're in order. Can you confirm?
that's correct.
Okay, they're not in any order, okay.
So the reason why we've identified this list is as we continue to get through this presentation, we'll start talking about what this would mean from a spatial perspective for the Ellie Shore Library. And these are all items that are captured within that. And I'll be able to dive into that a little bit more in detail shortly.
Great.
And hopefully that'll help clarify certain things.
Okay.
And then I guess the last piece then is some of the Town of Blue Mountains requirements, which are full barrier-free accessibility, which is obviously very important, and sustainable design principles. So those are all being factored into the study so that that we can provide recommendations on specifically what to do with the building.
If I could just add one comment, Mark, sorry to interrupt. The items listed under the Town of Blue Mountains requirements too, that actually came from a direct conversation with Phil. So when we were meeting with staff, it was mostly library staff. We did invite the CAO to participate as well. He wasn't available, so but he did recommend that Phil sort of take his place regardless because of his technical expertise and just the nature of his job managing capital facilities for the town. And so we did talk a lot about accessibility and sustainability for recommendations. So I just wanted to confirm that conversation did happen.
That's great.
Yeah. Back to you, Mark.
So like I said, everything that's being identified here is something that's been included in our preliminary schematic layouts. So to try and communicate our initial thoughts as far as the form of the building, its layout, what we could do to add to it, we wanted to put something together that wasn't too specific because we wanted to, the intent of this meeting is to look at the big picture, not necessarily focus on where a door is located or where a toilet is located or whether it should be on this wall or that wall or if this should be a stud wall or a block wall or something else like that. So something for those of you that may not be familiar with the sort of building design world, there's a term that we use which is functional programming, and basically what it means is a very abstract breakdown of a building to say, you know, the library is this part of the building, the gallery is that part of the building, the boardroom is on this piece of the gallery, without getting overly specific as to how how many square feet that room is, or where that door is, or where the window is, or anything like that. So in order to demonstrate that, we've prepared what's called a bubble diagram, which basically means that it's a preliminary conceptual sketch. It's used in designing and planning to represent the relationships between different areas. The idea is to show how the building is laid out from a very high up perspective. So these shapes and the colors are intended to represent adjacencies between different spaces to help visualize where the different aspects of a building are located. The intent is to demonstrate the direction that we're headed. It's not meant to be overly specific yet. And so to try and help understand what it is that we're communicating here, this is a bubble diagram of the library as it currently stands. There's bits and pieces of it that may seem familiar. So there's these sort of pink shapes, and you can see that the one at the bottom is sort of curving, and that's meant to represent the curving wall of the courtyard. That yellow sort of long rectangle represents the corridor that goes through the building.
Oh, sorry. Oh, this.
Yeah, that one there. Yeah.
Okay.
The green rectangle to the right is the staff space. So that represents where the service desk is, the offices. We can see the boardroom that you're sitting in now, and the purple sort of rectangle at the top left. The gallery is in blue. The washrooms are in orange. So this is, from a very abstract perspective, what the building looks like currently. And if we move on to the next slide, you can see that we were trying to communicate what we could add to the building. So in gray is meant to represent the existing building's footprint. And then these colors, with the same idea that we had previously, is intended to represent a potential addition to the building. So in pink, like we had on the previous slide, is meant to represent the library. What we're thinking makes the most sense is that because of how central the courtyard is within the building, that maybe it makes sense to enclose that space so that it could be used for the library to provide the space that's needed for all the activities that are being done there. We can provide additional study space. We can provide a cafe if we really want one. We could provide meeting rooms. We could provide additional furniture for sitting, for reading, for studying, for teenagers to hang out, for quiet meeting spaces or meeting rooms, for additional computers if we so wanted. In purple, you can see that at the bottom right there is meeting rooms. So what we could do is add additional space to the building and dedicate that corner to enclosed meeting rooms, so that for acoustic purposes, we can keep that separated from the rest of the library. We can also keep it on an exterior wall so that you get lots of natural light in that space. Whether it's one meeting room or three or more is something that we're working on developing based on how much space that we have to work with.
Would you consider that meeting room, you probably thought about this, but making it big that you could, and then you could pull dividers across and you could like divide it into three or have one big one, or make it sort of versatile that way?
Yeah, exactly. So there's those are called folding partitions or sliding partitions,
I
depending
knew
on
there
the
was a
type.
better name.
But yeah, those are exactly the type of things that we're considering as part of this. It's great because a lot of them come in high performance acoustic materials, so that if you do end up dividing it into 2 or 3 parts, their high acoustic performance allows you to have a meeting in one space and a meeting in the other space next to it without having too much noise transfer going through it. We would also provide some additional storage. When talking to staff, storage seems to be a consistent issue with the library, and so additional storage space is needed. And depending on how much money the board would want to spend on the library, we could provide more or less depending on essentially what budget allows. And then I guess to answer your question about program versus gallery space, we think that it makes sense to provide additional space. So we have where the gallery currently is located. maybe it makes sense for it to have its own dedicated space in that sort of blue rectangle that we see, or maybe it's vice versa, and maybe this could be just general programming space and the gallery stays where it is. And the point being is that we can provide a new large sort of open space, interior space that could be considered a multi-purpose room, or it could be considered a general programming room, or maybe it's just a dedicated gallery. Whatever it is that that the library wants to do, the point is that we have space that we're providing for whatever programming that that you want to do.
I don't know if they would want to move out of their current gallery. I think that would be a big alarm, but they'd probably love it if there was another big room that, so for example, if that was big enough to put senior fitness in, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have a sense of dimensions here, like how
Yeah.
far out into the parking lot would this bring us? And that would then impact the parking lot. So,
Which has also been identified as a
so
issue.
we need to look at that, and I don't know whether we can put some parking lot out this way. So there's other considerations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So-
whole empty space over there.
So we show it non-specific like that for the very specific reason of focusing on where things should go within the building. As far as, how many dimensions or how far this addition sticks out, the intent is not to talk about that as far as what this diagram is intended to show. Of course, the parking lot is being considered in the grand scheme of things, but this is an interim presentation, and so the idea is not to go to that level of detail yet. It's really just to get an understanding of what we can add to the building. And so to your point about whether or not you want to move the gallery, that's fine. This blue rectangle could just be dedicated to programming space instead.
You mentioned children's area, but I don't see it on the map.
So the children's area would remain essentially where it currently is.
Okay,
With the additional library space available, we can make it larger.
So it's just not shown on the map, okay.
Because it's in the gray.
And where would the teen area be? Is that included, where is that? That's not on here. The children's area in the
So
blue is not here.
so we had a lot of conversations about that internally with Jen, and we think it makes sense for the teen space to more or less remain where it is. What we are thinking about doing is basing ourselves off of what we've seen in precedents from other libraries. One of the challenges that we've had is it's been difficult to get teenager feedback. So what we can do instead is look at what other libraries have done successfully, and if you've been to the any of the Toronto Public Libraries, or even the Barrie Public Library has a pretty good teen space. Generally, the theme is relatively consistent across the board, which is that those teen spaces like to have a sense of separation from the rest of the library. They don't like to feel like they're being supervised or watched. So maybe what we can do is orient the bookshelves in such a way that it doesn't feel like they're quite as in the open as possible. And something that some libraries have quite literally done that seems to work is they'll put up a sign that says teen space only, and that generally does seem to work for other libraries. So from a teen space planning perspective, there's room to move things around to make the space bigger if ever it needed to, but at this point in time, we don't think that it makes sense to provide them a larger space than they already have.
So just for clarity, that's interesting. So I have two questions. First, where is the teen space currently?
The
Okay,
teen
that-
space is at the bottom right corner, essentially, of this gray floor plan.
It says teen zone.
Oh,
You can go
God,
out and look.
clearly, I'm gonna put myself out there that I clearly have not seen a sign.
And
It's big.
Okay.
and that's where the young adult collection is.
Oh, okay,
And so then
okay.
there's window seating, the
There's all
creator
that.
space is
Cool.
kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just sort of
It's
there.
There, yeah, okay.
The collection more so dictates the space than the actual sign that says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My other question then, just for clarity on looking between these two slides. So if I'm understanding what you're saying is that what's on this slide is the proposed additional spaces.
Correct.
So, okay, so the only thing that's inconsistent here is an additional children's area. So just, again, just if we're referencing this, we would take the reference to a children's area. So you're saying additional library and courtyard, additional meeting room, additional gallery, additional staff, additional storage and circulation, and additional washrooms.
I don't see additional washrooms there.
But those are just, those are the
They've
existing ones.
moved it unless.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to clarify what is on this page. Is it all, are you just, yeah, just so if we can be clear, if this is all the additional items, then let's only show the additional.
So what's,
That we're building on what's existing.
yeah, so what's
So-
confusing is we're making the assumption that the gray stays the same, but I don't think that's a valid assumption.
Yeah.
So
I think
the,
the gray is gonna change.
the intent of this diagram is to show what we're adding to the building, not necessarily to show what is changing within the existing piece of the library.
Okay,
So as far as, the question to washrooms is concerned, the intent is to add washrooms. One of the washrooms that we want to add is a universal washroom to meet barrier-free accessibility requirements, to provide a better staff washroom space. And so you can see that in that sort of greenish rectangle, we're proposing some staff space there, and we could locate that next to a staff washroom.
gotcha.
So would that mean taking the other washroom out?
Not the new one.
Oh,
No,
no, I meant the existing one in the staff area.
Oh, yes, the existing one in the staff area would go. It just simply doesn't have the space to be sized the way that it needs to accommodate accessibility requirements.
So it's a relocation more than additional space.
But it's gonna take
We
up,
need-
but it would free that space up in the,
Based on the size of the existing, I think it's just, yeah.
Correct.
So then, so
Exactly.
just back to my original question. So on this slide, we should just take out children's area.
Yes.
And then we know that everything else is recommended additional.
Correct.
I think you need to relabel gallery to programming.
yes.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
we don't know that, right?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a room and it can be used however you want.
Okay.
so it should be gallery / programming.
Back to that.
Well, I would say I would change the programming, because I don't think we want to move the gallery, frankly.
No.
We don't want to move anything we don't have to move.
No.
And so, I mean, it can still be used as gallery programming space, but having additional programming space is important.
Yeah.
I do think it would be helpful to see this with the intended changes within the
Yeah.
greater footprint. Because that's part of our confusion as well. For example, I can't tell whether we still have our corridor running straight through from parking lot to the front
Door.
here, and then how. So for example, the advantage of that sort of thing is you've got most library type functions that can be open and closed at different schedule than the programming functions on the other side.
Right.
I'm also kind of, this subtracts from parking, I think. Though scale is very hard to see here. So my other question is sort of, is this where you're actually thinking putting those things as opposed to simply indicating, these are the things that need to be added. This is one way in which they could be added.
if I could make one comment, what's really ironic about this part of the conversation is behind the scenes, we were going back and forth on whether or not it made sense for the interim report to include that level of detail. And I thought that had we have included that level of detail, we would get too into the weeds.
Mhm.
But what it seems like is it's actually works the opposite way.
It's creating confusion. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too high level.
So from this, so then moving forward, because, the next step is the full recommendation. What information do you need from us? So at this point, for example, if this is the list of your, suggested additions, should we be giving feedback saying, well, so for example, we feel like the gallery space should be additional programming space? Is there additional input from us that would help with the next phase and the final recommendation? Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think all feedback is helpful. For example, I understand rather than showing this as gallery space, we could show it as programming space, this sort of blue rectangle. We can, I think if maybe you compiled your feedback and maybe provided it to Jennifer, I don't know if Jennifer, that makes sense or not. That's something then that we could review and adjust based on what that commentary says. I think something that's important to keep in mind is we don't show the site design in this presentation. As Jen had mentioned, we didn't want to get too lost in the weeds of numbers of parking spaces and that kind of thing, because that's something that we're developing anyways. So that's something that we can just for consideration. It's not that because we're making an addition to the building, of course it's going to take space into the parking lot. It's not something that's being forgotten or lost on us. It's just that we wanted to focus on the building. I understand now that perhaps we should have also talked about that's a little bit more nitty-gritty items, and I do apologize for that. So it is something that we can certainly demonstrate. I think maybe if you provide your feedback, that'll be something helpful for us to ensure that we're sort of meeting your expectations, and that way we can also ensure that the final report is addressing all of the questions that you might have. When it comes to the final report, it won't be this vague. It'll be a lot more specific. It'll touch on exactly how much space is being provided. It'll talk about how many parking spots are being relocated and how many additional parking spots are being provided. It'll talk about what sort of furniture that we think needs to be replaced or fixed or anything else like that. It'll talk about workspaces, numbers of washrooms, sizes of washrooms, all of that stuff. Yeah, I think maybe the last thing to just keep in mind is, at the end of the day, this is a feasibility study, so it doesn't necessarily mean that what we're presenting is what is being built. It doesn't mean that this is the last chance to provide commentary or feedback. If ever you do decide to build, there'll be lots of opportunities during those design stages to get into the nitty-gritty details of exactly how big a room is, how many windows it'll have, whether or not it should have 20 plugs in it or 10 or 5 or anything like that, how many toilets we want to add to the building, all of that stuff as well. So
Mark, you mentioned functional program earlier. I just want to clarify, is the outcome of this going to be a function like a blueprint or what you're recommending?
Correct.
So Mark, my question to you is, you have chosen to extend on the east side of the building. Why was that the solution you sought as opposed to, say, on the south side?
So there's a few different reasons for pushing in the direction that we have. So it didn't make any sense to extend towards either road. It'll take up a lot of valuable landscaping space between the building and the road itself. The other thing too to keep in mind is when laying out a building on a property, there are setback requirements, and the building itself is essentially as close as it can get to the roads without being able to do very much meaningful addition. The front of the library is also very iconic, I think, with the town. So changing that, I think, would.
Sorry, but the south side is an empty lot that we own.
Yeah. I was going to go around the whole building.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think you need to do the roadside. I think we understand that. It's really the south side. That was the question.
So the south side, there's a few different pieces to it. So one, because
Was that the south side?
That is.
Okay, sorry, Mark, we're just getting our orientation directions here.
Yeah, so that's a problem.
So we're
That's
saying the
okay.
south side is the grass part over there, okay.
yeah, I think technically it's like southwest or something like that, but I think that we're all on the same page. So there's two different spaces where we can kind of take. So there's that south side, which is the sort of grass lot, and then there's the I guess we could call it the east side, where there's the house there that's technically owned by the municipality. So what we thought made sense was, because we're filling in the courtyard and there's still an interest in having some sort of outdoor space, maybe it made sense to put an outdoor landscaped area in that sort of grassed lot instead. That way it's something that's visible from the street. It's something that maybe the kids can utilize when they're coming from school to the library. It's already a landscaped sort of space anyways, and maybe that way it provides a nice natural outdoor space with the trees that are already located there as well. And then as far as changes to the parking lot are concerned, I think it makes sense to move into that sort of east lot, and then maybe the bottom corner of the west portion of the property.
And what about the children's area? Because did you get any feedback about accessibility? Is that something you're considering? Because I know that's something that's been raised many times.
So yeah, so one of the things that we think is necessary to do, although the sort of recessed floor within the tower is an interesting architectural feature. We think that for accessibility reasons, it makes sense to raise the floor within that space so that it's level with everything else. We can adjust the seating in that space, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the character in that room necessarily needs to be lost. I think that the room just needs to be adjusted so that it becomes more accessible.
Now, Mark, you said in the final report, it won't be presented as sort of this gray. You'll talk about what's changing within the gray.
Correct.
So when you're talking about staff space, is that replacing existing staff space, or is that additional staff space and the existing staff space, trouble with that word, stays the same?
So it's a bit of both. So where the staff sort of workspace is currently located, it's intended to remain staff workspace, but it won't look the same. So if you've been back there before, you'd have noticed that there's a wall that sort of cuts right through the middle of it. We think that it makes sense to get rid of that wall to open the space up. And then because we'd be proposing to fill in the courtyard to make that interior space, that gives us the space that we need to push the staff workspace further into the library without losing any library space. So it's a bit of both. So it'd be keeping it, but updating it and revising it, filling in that staff washroom so that we have additional workspace available, and then taking some additional space from the library so that we can provide the workspace needed.
I think it'd be very helpful to have seen that sort of plan today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like we're missing everything that's in the gray, and it impacts the discussion around the additional pieces here. Another question a couple things I would say is, in some of the decision making, I don't want this to sound, not going to sound great, but I don't want decisions to be arbitrary. So, example, don't move the gallery because that'll cost extra money unnecessarily, but add programming space. So that was sort of one of my comments. The other is what won't be accommodated here and might flow to a new Craigley facility. Because that is also part of the study, is this is being done sort of with an eye on also the potential for adding to Craigley sometime in the foreseeable future. And so how are we balancing that? And is it possible to identify what we thought? Okay, so we're proposing these sorts of things. There really isn't that much of a teen space change. So, you know, you definitely want more space, or we can't accommodate a 50+ meeting room here, but it could be done in a new space in Craiglee. So showing what might get moved to Craiglee as a result of these changes here.
I do also see Councillor McKinley's hand is up. Mark, do you mind if I just kind of start with this and then I can sort of pass it on to you? The one thing I want to mention is when we were talking about Craigleith, especially for this interim report, and our conversations had happened before council this past Monday. I actually advised them not to include too much detail about Craigleith because I definitely think that council's direction for next steps of the MRFA are really important in how we're planning library services in that particular area. But that's not to say, I think we've been really clear when we've talked about this project that the focus of the study is primarily on Ellie Shore, but that the final report will definitely have some insights into the feasibility of the spaces that they visited. So the schoolhouse and the fire department, but, and Councillor McKinley, you may actually have more information than I do on even, making sure that we're on the same page with the town in terms of what their next steps are investigating that space. So my understanding of the council conversation that happened on Monday, was that council is interested in hearing what will come out of this study, particularly as it pertains to the fire hall.
Okay.
So, you want me to answer that?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, so as per Monday's conversation, well, first thing I just wanted to mention, like, just wanted to ask our consultants, like, you have more presentation to go through, right? Or is this the end of your presentation?
We're getting pretty close to the ending of it. The next thing is to talk about next steps. So
yeah, and that's what I was going to mention to everybody. I mean, and I do apologize to everyone that I'm not there with you in the boardroom. I'm getting over a flu, and I know they say sharing is caring, but I wasn't going to do that to anybody. Just so that I could help, if I could help kind of walk everybody through, like my fellow board members, my colleagues through this, is that normally, like with our consultants here, they'll convey the information that or the data they've collected. They'll come up with some options and some ideas and some next steps. So you took the words right out of my mouth. You got the next steps are coming. So no decisions have been made, really, right? I hope that helps us all to kind of grasp what this is, right? There's just options. That's what they do. And then when it comes to the Craigleith aspect, with revitalizing the Craigleith, the old Craigleith Fire Hall, that's not disappeared off the table for sure. The decision on Monday at the committee of the whole was to continue on our own continue on our own for the multi-use recreational facility. That doesn't mean that the library is out. That doesn't mean that anybody's out of it. It's just that we need to kind of take a break and start planning for ourselves. So, and I'm always happy to talk about that too, from my aspect of it. Doesn't mean anything's over, and it doesn't mean necessarily that there's no partnership to be had with Collingwood, but I don't for one feel that Collingwood Council has much of an appetite to partner with us anyways. So anyway, that's not important, but we just need to, we'll just keep on track. So I hope that wasn't too much of a word salad and helps to explain a few things.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Okay, I'm just looking at the clock.
Let's do next steps and then next
Yeah.
to the last questions.
Yeah. So, back to you. Oh, that is your last slide.
yeah. So as far as, I guess maybe before I say next steps, I'll speak quickly to, I think, 2 questions that were asked previously. So as far as spaces that haven't been incorporated in this layout that we had proposed are spaces that didn't get very much attention. So for example, we didn't include a dedicated space for a commercial kitchen, for food pantry, for a sensory room. We haven't proposed any major changes to the creator or maker space. So those are the kinds of things that, due to the lack of attention when compared, relatively speaking, to some of the other things like programming spaces and study spaces and a cafe, that's where the decision making was made there. I guess to echo what was said before, by no means does it mean that this is a final iteration. It's something that we'll continue to develop and refine. And as far as next steps are concerned, that's very much the intent there is to develop and refine the floor plans to a very specific level so that we can put cost estimates together, which is a very important piece to the study that we're doing, so that we can get an idea of how much money is needed in order to build something. So developing that cost estimate, developing these floor plans to that point is important. Developing our report even further so that it speaks specifically not only to all of the research that we've done, but so that we can ensure that it addresses all of the questions that were asked today and questions that may continue to be asked, as we work towards our sort of final version of the report and presentation.
So I'm just looking at at your proposal. We've got draft report development. The timeline was to December 5th. So this is not the draft report then. This is an update, correct?
Like the
Yes.
interim report.
Yeah.
And then we have a stakeholder review and draft presentation, December 8th to 19th. So what is that still valid? What's the timeline you proposed? And what is this then compared to what is left to be done? Like, where are we in this draft report finalization, final report January 15th? Like, where are we at? Is this the draft report? Because I think we would agree it's not the draft report.
Yeah.
No, it's the interim, just what's been done so far.
Okay, with preliminary thoughts.
Yes.
Okay, so
And the draft report is going to you, so that the next stage, the stakeholders.
yeah, what's next, consultants? What's next?
So we knew that this meeting was coming up, and we thought it made sense for the progress of the work that we're doing to be included in this into this meeting, so that it could act as a sort of presentation for the interim report. It's not necessarily the report, but it's a presentation of essentially what the interim report will say.
But
So
you didn't use those words in your proposal. It says draft. So when you say interim, does that draft? Is that what you mean?
Sorry, can
We're
you say
looking
that
at
again?
the time.
We're looking at your proposal
Okay.
and the timelines. It's time task matrix, page 11.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to figure out where we are in this process. And if I think I'm seeing nods in the room. We don't see this as a draft report. It's
So-
maybe some ideas.
Gotcha. So if we want to get that granular, I guess you could say that we are line 16, meeting number 4, programmatic opportunities overview and interim status report. So
Okay.
that's what this meeting is intended to serve as, is
Okay.
a sort of preliminary version of what the report will say. The next step is for us to develop the report in more of a in written detail, so that can then be submitted. If you look at item 17, you'll see that it says develop draft report between mid-November to the beginning of December, and then that's when we would submit our report. From that point, you'd have, well, as much time as you like, really, to review the report as we continue to develop things in the background. any sort of preliminary comments or thoughts or anything else like that can be provided, and we'll certainly factor that in as we work towards finalizing the report. I don't like to get that granular as far as RFPs or anything like that are concerned, because at the end of the day, I just want to provide whatever makes you guys happy. If it says something but you guys prefer to do something else, I'm not that strict when it comes to, well, line item 14 says this, but line item 17 didn't say that kind of thing. So the message that I'm trying to communicate here is, I understand that's, I understand and appreciate that we're looking at this schedule, but and I think that we are meeting what it's saying, but on the flip side too, like if there was something different that you wanted me to provide, then I could do that.
Yeah, and I have one other sort of major piece of feedback. You did commit to a comprehensive utilization analysis. I'm not sure I saw a comprehensive utilization analysis here. I saw a survey of 179 people, but do we need another meeting room? I mean, we keep saying we do. We know that, but have you looked at room bookings and that kind of thing to inform that we need another meeting room? I mean,
So to try and keep our presentation digestible, we didn't want to go into that level of detail just because we didn't think that it would be very well, it would be, for one thing, it'd be very time consuming because there's a ton of data to go through. And, I'm also trying to be respectful of your time. So we tried to keep things high level for this presentation so that the written report can speak to that. And that way you can sort of go through it to whatever level of detail that satisfies you. So if that didn't meet what you're expecting with today's presentation, then I certainly apologize for that.
Okay, so we expect to see much more detail from which we can make a decision and recommendations moving forward.
Okay, the timing of the draft report is early December, and I also thought I was trying to reference to a stakeholder review in mid-December. So there'd have to be a window in there for us as a board to look at the draft report.
Yeah, so I don't know what's coming next. We don't have a timeline, so I think there maybe is some work to do.
And part of our, just Mark, for your reference, so we don't have a board meeting in December. So that's why we're sort of talking through the timelines and just trying to understand. So in order for us to get together and review things and align on decisions, et cetera, that's kind of where we're a little stuck right now.
So maybe I can ask the question to all of you. So as it was mentioned, the intent is to provide the draft report essentially for the end of this month so that you have time to review and read through it. Do you want to have a review meeting to go over that? And if you do, when would you like to do it? It doesn't have to be in December if that doesn't work.
Well, maybe we can,
I'll get back
Okay.
to you with that. I feel like there's calendars and other things I need to take a look at. I will.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
We probably need to see the draft before we even make that decision.
Yeah, so so you will have a draft report by the end of the month? Did we know? I mean, that's good.
Expectation. Yep.
That's the target.
So, yeah.
Then just a quick question on that. So you sort of mentioned that us collaborating and on our feedback or questions and getting it back to you through Jen. When, like, do you need like a week's time? When would you like to have that in order to, other than tomorrow?
I mean, if you could get it back before end of today, that'd be great. I guess there's two different ways to answer the question. If you want the feedback to be incorporated in our draft report, then we in all fairness, we need a little bit of time to be able to review and digest that. So if we do want it to be included in our draft report, then I think that we'd have to, although it may be challenging, ask for perhaps Monday at the latest for any sort of feedback, because next week is the last week of November. If we're okay with that feedback not necessarily being captured within this draft report, then maybe by the end of November would be easiest for everyone.
Okay,
Well, I'd like to know that our feedback is
Yeah.
used in the preparation of the draft report.
I think we've given
I
you-
don't need
yeah.
you to feed it back to us.
Right.
yeah,
You know, I don't need an appendix that says the board feedback was. I just need you to listen to what we've said today and address some of that stuff.
Yeah, that is our feedback. I don't think we have anything more to give you other than maybe we'll come up with a few things and Jen could pass them on, but I think you've heard from us that we can't really consider the additional space without a better understanding of what's in the current space and how that will change or stay the same. And we also, I particularly would like to see some stronger utilization analysis.
Yeah, the data to support those recommendations.
Yeah,
That goes beyond the survey.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, for example, why don't we why are we keeping the children's space the same or the teen space in the same area? Like what's the data that supports that? What's the data that supports no makerspace other than what we're doing now? Like I just,
So this goes to Lori's earlier comment that we shouldn't just have arbitrary decisions. There should be data to support that decision.
data informed.
So like if we leave the gallery where it is because it's functional and whatever, there'd be some rationale behind it more than us just saying
No,
it should
I
stay.
would say kind of the opposite. We would leave the gallery where it is. There'd be a rationale if you wanted to move it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I don't need rationale. for
rationale for change.
It's a rationale for
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. And, you know, we're in an environment where, costs are becoming more and more of an issue. And I know when I met the mayor to talk about the study, I committed to the fact that we were going to have really strong utilization data to inform any need to expand, because that costs money, right? So, and it sounds like you have it, we just haven't seen it today, so,
So that'll be part of the
Yeah.
report.
yeah.
Great.
Okay, I think that's sufficient. I know we've got a busy agenda and we'll leave that with you.
Great.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the work done so far, guys.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thank
Okay,
you. Bye.
bye.
I might need 2 seconds just to get my bearings here.
Yeah, do you want to take a break? Shall we take a break? Because we.
Sure.
Okay,
Stand up and stretch.
do you want to turn off the,
And I will, and I can pause it, just give me 2 seconds. The settings for the TV have been changed.
oh, yeah.
And I didn't notice that until partway through, so I apologize
That's
for
all right.
all the technical issues.
Will we take like 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5
So
minutes.
everybody regroup.
5
at,
minutes,
uh,
guys. Marie and Sean.
The integration of library needs in the staff report was amazingly done well. Like,
Mhm.
it was really, really done well. I was going, yes. As I was reading through it. So if you had any say in that, Jen, good job.
I did, yeah, both, Director Gibbons and CAO Smith were very collaborative in the whole process. The timeline was a little bit hectic, I will say. But essentially all of the feedback that I provided was accepted into the report,
Yeah.
which was nice to see.
Yeah.
Um,
So kudos to you, Jen.
So anything
Thank you.
new on that,
I think Councillor McKinley mentioned
Yeah.
a few things earlier, and I might actually even pass this over to you, but I was at the meeting virtually. I did not think they were going to get to that agenda item that day.
neither.
And so and so really all I spoke to was just trying to clarify. There was some discussion about, well, if it's here, then that would be weird if it's Blue Mountains Library Services in a different area. So anyway, I just provided some clarity, but the results of my understanding, the results of the decision was to move forward independently, as McKinley said earlier. And my understanding is actually to move forward with the library as part of the project team, whether or
Yes.
not, phase 2 will actually include library services. I have no idea. But my understanding too, was that we're not going to continue work on phase 2 until the results of the space utilization study are finalized. Would you say that's accurate?
I think that's a
Councilor McKinley?
good, sorry. I think, yeah, Jen, I think that's a good, interim or a good step for sure. It just gives more, I don't know the right word. I'm sorry. My brain fog is just cloudy here. Not substance, but it just gives more context to next steps, I think, for the future of what that will hold. And now I'd like to clarify too, right, that there are a few things, and I don't mean my comment earlier to be negative in the sense that I didn't feel that the Collingwood Council had any indication to work with us any further. I just know what I know, which is that, they started their own steering committee way before, whenever the whole process began. They have their own ideas, and they have their own budgets and stuff, and the budget is the biggest thing, right? We don't have any real substantial money set aside to build a $90 or $100 million facility. That's the end of the story, right? So we need to, just take a step back, get more data, or get more study done, and then we can move forward. We can create a plan, a financial plan. We can do it at our own pace, at our own term. I didn't really accept some of my colleagues' comments that it sounded like, the way they talked, it sounded like we needed to build this next year. Well, it's not going to happen. So I still find that the MRFA, like, as long as it took, and I'm not going to go into the details about what took so long because it's not important, but the thing of it is that it was still a worthwhile exercise. And yes, it costs some money, but it's still worthwhile. I find that, it's not, well, what a waste of $100,000 or whatever. I say no. We had really great community engagement. We can take that information, and it's still valuable, right? It's not going to go bad. We won't have to redo all that for the next go around, I believe, anyways, because I think that what they did find was useful information that for a location and for the amount of land that we're going to need to build this. And
So
yep, sorry, yeah.
I was gonna say, were there next steps that were determined? Like, is there a report back to council for a certain date, or?
No, exactly. But it's just sort of like, that's what I was trying to say with this, with the consultants here, right? Like we kind of, they report what they've got. We tell them what we want, then they go away, and then they come back, and then they go, it just sort of goes, yes, it feels like a month of Sundays. It feels like it takes a long time to get anything done, but that's just how the process works. I know it's not great news. It's not what anybody wants to hear, but that's just what it is. So I think we're going to move forward, and yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions though.
Is anybody driving this? Like, so if there's no requirement to report back to council, are they waiting for our space utilization study, and then has a team been put together to continue working on it, I guess, or is it just going to die?
I imagine leadership. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, Jen. Not to answer for you, but yeah, our senior management team and our managers group and everybody, it's not disappeared. It's not gone.
Okay, good.
And the composition, like as far as I know anyways, like, I mean, they know full well it's still on the table. We've made our direction to staff. Of course, it'll be concrete at the next council meeting whenever we ratify all our decisions, because that was just committee of the whole, right? So we've got, yeah. And when it comes to the, like, there was no official dismemberment or disbanding of the committee of which we already had in place that included Jennifer. So I think
I mean, I've kind of taken 2 points here. One, the process was very successful from a library perspective because we were, through Jen, like, part of the process. So I think that is an absolute success, regardless of what happens at the end. And the other thing I've taken from it is this study is very important because what it says could lead council to decide to hold off on MRFA, to go forward with MRFA. We just don't know. So it's just sort of another reminder that we've promised a lot with this project. It's an important project for us. It's not just, we're looking for some expert.
Hopefully the consultants deliver.
Yeah.
I think the other important thing too is that whatever the small portion of the study that will speak to Craig Leith, I think that will be very valuable information when the town is considering location for MRFA.
Yeah.
So, and then the other part of it too is the funding. So hypothetically, say the recommendations of the space utilization study are, we can probably implement or say we can address our space issues at Ellie Shore and incorporate expansion of library services into an existing municipal facility, all within or closer to the amount of money that we already have set aside in development charges and reserves.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be fundraising or grants, but is it possible and more realistic to do both of those projects with the resources we have now? And then when we're talking about a MRF, does it make sense for it to be in Craig Leith? I mean, is there even land? But say it does for the recreation side of things, well, then does it really matter if the library is part of that?
Right.
But if they're looking at a different
Exactly.
location, then sure. But they're very interconnected, and I think one of the really important things that came out of the MRF is the town is considering the long-term planning of the library in longer-term municipal planning.
Yes.
Which is a huge success.
Yes.
Yeah, and the profile
So-
the library got compared to where it was before the MRFA is absolutely
Yeah.
huge success.
Yeah, and I think, whether we end up in a MRF located in Craigleith area, or we end up with the old fire hall, I think we keep both those items in the fire and see which seems to develop best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we can also manage to expand, within some realistic manner on our site, that's great news too. Right?
Well, that, which is also directly in line with the official plan in terms of density
Yes.
in this
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
so great work, Jan, on MRFA, and
So can I just ask a question? You sort of referenced sort of the DCs, and that they could be used for both here and Craigleith, and that's because the work here is growth related? Or,
Well, so there's two parts to my answer here. So the development charges study specifies 10,000 square feet of library expansion, but it does not specify where. So my understanding is, and again, like we would need to consult the treasurer and everything else, but my understanding is that that funding, as long as it's related to growth, we could have access to it for Ellie Shore and for potential expansion into Craigleith.
it gives us flexibility.
Yeah.
and is there some indication from our bubble diagram, what kind of percentage how much of that 10,000 would get used here versus in Craiglang?
Yes, I asked those questions. I don't remember. That should be probably incorporated into the written report. But I think the other part of it too is with the space utilization study, a majority of it will focus on what can happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So yeah, there will be commentary on future expansion, sure, but what can we actually accomplish in 2 to 3 years?
With
That's our
$3
focus.
million
Yes.
Yeah.
plus dollars, yeah,
And we did talk about, yeah, our funding, because
yeah.
we want to be able to go back with something that will get us what we want in 2 to 3 years with,
Without waiting 20 for a MRFA.
yeah, or even having an unrealistic ask.
Yeah,
And 2 locations, right? Because the most of that growth money has come from Craiglang.
Yeah.
Right, so
Mhm.
I think we get some backlash if all of it got used here. And so I think it has to be done, you have to be able to see it in
Yeah.
2 locations.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
a good
think there's stuff that needs to be done here.
yeah,
But there's a lot of things that can flow into Craiglang because they can't be accommodated here. And whether it's, say, with a multi-use facility or revamping of the old fire hall, I think to be able to see that in this study, these are the things that we see going out there would be important. So I think the next step will be, how do we then move that project forward?
yeah.
Yeah, and who do we need to talk to and when do we talk to them and what kind of consultation do we do in Craiglang?
Mhm.
So I guess I read somewhere from town minutes and stuff that the fire hall can be used for storage of road equipment and things like that. So how does that fit with having a library built there?
So that's not set in stone.
Okay,
I think that was the initial, recommendation from town staff. But my understanding is that they're still investigating that space with feedback from Craigleith Working Group, to see what is actually needed and what service gaps they could potentially fill there. So I don't think the library was initially part of the discussion, but the library is now part of it.
Yeah,
And I also, Councillor McKinley, this might be a question for you, but did council approve including the Craigleith Working Group's vision request for like consultants to do like a visioning exercise? Or is that still on the table for consideration for next year?
I think that got rolled into the future expenditures from the MAT tax, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken. I'd have to look for, I don't want to speak out of turn. It's been a very busy time and a lot of numbers and a lot of requests and a lot of visioning has been happening. But I'm pretty sure that was in there.
I can answer.
Okay,
Sorry?
Lori.
I can answer. I was at the Craigleith Working Group meeting yesterday. I can talk about it now.
yeah, might as well.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of that $25,000 request for community engagement was, it got taken into account, but it got put under the municipal combination tax source of income. And there's a whole separate process involved around the maps usage. And they've done some analysis of priorities. And at this stage, the community engagement for Craigleith has been moved into the second tranche of studies. And that will be at least the second quarter of 2026. The working group was not happy about that decision. And they plan on making a deputation at council at the meeting in December 1st, when you're actually looking at the budget again, and ask that 25,000 get moved into the tax funded as opposed to the MAT funded. And then that would be, because that is part of the town's role, is to be asking the residents what they want to see, and that really has very little to do with the MAT, the combination tax. So they were making that presentation in December. And one of the questions I have, to pull this forward, is, let's see what I got. My question is there an opportunity to work together with the working group on a community engagement consultation to do with facilities at that end of town? They have planned the next meeting is either gonna be January 14 or 15. Our next meeting is January 15. And they should know at that point where their funding is coming from, whether it's the MAP or into the taxation. And we will know from our own study what we're thinking about Craigleith. And it seems to me there's a synergy there about how we move forward and whether we do it. I don't know whether how they'll get funded and what the timing will be. We want to do some consultation as well at some point. So maybe we have an opportunity to work together, I guess is what I'm saying. And they're also planning an open house in February for the community of Craigleith to take a look at the projects they're working on. And I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity for us to be bringing our project forward and asking for some feedback. So I think there's an opportunity to do some stuff either in parallel or actually together. And we may want to ask for a joint meeting with the Craigleith Working Group, especially if they land on the same day as us. Or do we ask that maybe we attend, we more formally, not just me as a member of the group, but as the board more formally to say, these are the sort of steps we want to take. And you guys are the reps right now for Craigleith with the town. So how can we work together? And that may be something where, officially Jen, you might be, I know they have many staff members from the town show up meetings to address different issues. So whether it's the trails or it's a park or, it's so they often have, treasurer's been there. There's probably 4 or 5 different departments have been there. So we could ask to present our situation
Do that,
and see how we might work with that.
That's great, and I think it would really add strength to our recommendation, wouldn't it? Because if this group is getting sort of more, you remember 2 years ago, we were like, what is the group and who's responsible for the group? And now it seems like it's getting quite organized and is starting to have a path forward. And so are we with what we want. We're not there yet, but it's the emerging of the two minds.
Yeah. We
I
definitely.
think working together makes sense
Yeah.
because that adds strength to our story too.
Yeah,
And makes it harder for council to ignore when there's that many
Right.
people asking for the same thing.
And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, let's not duplicate,
That's
right?
the thing,
There's
that's
so much
okay.
information we have, and then we'll comment on that in the corporate plan as well. That timing works with our strategic planning for our,
but it'd be really nice
Cool.
to see in this study something about why we need more programming space to prove it. And then when we can say, okay, well, it would cost this much to expand here. And it would cost this much to do it in Craigleith, maybe it wouldn't be cost effective to add a huge programming space here. And maybe it would be to add some, but to put a big, because we could all go to Craigleith for seniors fitness or like, who knows, right? Like,
So I would like to approach, and Steve Granger is the main person and Pam Spence is the other person that's sort of leading the Craigleith Working Group to actually propose that we look at some way that we can move forward together.
yeah,
So I will, if that can come as traction just spoken from you guys, I understand I will do that because I'm only there really right now as a local citizen.
yeah,
But I'm also on the board, and so it's a way of helping to bring the two groups together on a common path.
right. I think that's great, Lori. Thank you
Okay.
so much for doing that. Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move now to organizational excellence. So we've got the Q3 and Yahoo, the draft budget, which Jen did an amazing job with. So
Okay,
I'll start with the Q3.
yes, I'm just going to navigate to that.
Yes.
Okay, so this looks, this template still needs some significant work, but it looks a little bit different. I adjusted it based on some of the feedback from the Q3 report. My intention moving forward is to have the exact same template that the town's finance team uses to present their quarterly finance reports to council. With the deputy treasurer leaving, we didn't get there in time for Q3. So it still looks similar to how it looked before. But I condensed a few things and I changed some language, which I can explain. I think what might be helpful is I'll go through every single account just to provide clarity. And then maybe some really general commentary on the numbers, and then I can move to questions. So if you look at the very first asset is our library board surplus reserve. And this was only added to our quarterly reports for the first time for Q2, but I had included it for the first time ever in the 2024 draft budget to the board. So this number here, this amount is held in a town-lined account. It's not in the library's bank account. And it's governed by the board and council's funding agreement. And so in section 3.6 of the funding agreement, all it says is that that annual surplus is maintained and controlled by the board. So it's not designated for any particular purpose per se. However, obviously, when we have budget discussions, there are certain things in the past, and probably even when we talk about 2026, where the board has designated certain things to be funded from this surplus reserve. Typically, it ends up being just any shortfall that we've had. You know, if the 6% doesn't cover our operating and capital budget, then whatever shortfall there is will be topped up by the surplus reserve. I had mentioned, I think, with the 2024 budget, 2025 budget, that our entire capital budget was anticipated to be funded through this reserve. And that's a really standard practice even with municipal finances. So when the municipality brings their budget to council, their capital budget is almost entirely funded by reserves. And again, Councilor McKinley, if I'm wrong, or if you have any other insight, please say. But I think part of that too is to reduce the impact on the tax levy. And that's what I think we should be continuing to do too. You know, if we can keep the 6% at 6% and use our reserves to top up our budget without having to go back to council and ask for more money, to me, that makes the most sense. And I think part of that too is continuing to work with the town so that we can identify areas of shared costs, which, you know, behind the scenes will impact how I create a draft budget and bring it to the board. So the surplus reserve, that has just been growing. Any surplus every year will go back into it, or any money that's not spent will go back into that reserve fund.
Can I ask you a logistics question? Because it's a town line account, does council need to approve us spending it, or
No,
because it's board control, we have control over it?
that's correct. Yeah. They don't touch it, but and you know, I thought about behind the scenes, does it make sense for us to take that or have them transfer the money to us every year so it's in our bank account? I personally don't think that makes any sense, because they will transfer money in and out based on our audit every year, or if we don't, it's just logistically, it doesn't make any sense to use the scenes. I think at least that we have something governing and specifically specifying that it's controlled by the board. That's our protection over that reserve. So
Hey,
Which
Jen?
keeps in.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Julia.
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, so that being in mind, I know people are going to see that and they're going to think, wow, what a huge number. But what I think is really important is that it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that huge of a number, especially and with your, you know, with your thought about utilizing reserves to facilitate a lower, you know, per capita or lower tax. The thing of it is that I think that, you know, and it's great that the board has control of it, but what might be worthwhile, obviously not right now because there's a lot of things going on, but perhaps in the future would be to do your own, or for us to do our own projection and overview of the expenditures from that reserve to say,
Mhm.
okay, well, based on these numbers, like what I'm thinking of is that we have time. Like it's not a huge number, but it's enough of a number. I'll get my thoughts straight here, that we have enough time as the board to implement some policy that would give us guardrails for the use, or for the, for an upset limit, or I guess not an upset limit, a decrease limit on how we want to see those reserve funds be utilized. Not a how, but what point in time we go, okay, we better stop using this reserve to supplement, and we better start renegotiating the percentage to the town. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah,
Totally.
and that's in my goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
completely
again,
agree.
is this
Yeah.
to handle shortfalls in operations, operating funds, or is it to help us with capital funds?
It could be either, but we haven't had any operating shortfalls.
So do you remember when we all started and Sabrina had a projection that we
Yeah.
were gonna use it all?
Yeah.
So that has not come to pass,
No,
which is a good problem to have.
yes, offsite.
Yeah.
It is.
That being
but-
said, I think what you're saying, Sean, is we should be identifying 2 to 3 or 4 years out how this money is going to be used.
Well, when I get to the draft budget, I already do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
It's
think,
It's
yeah.
just the way it's presented, so I have a much
Sorry about
better
that, Ben.
understanding this
Yeah,
year of
that's
the
good.
budget, so I'll touch on that when we get to the
Okay.
draft budget. But on the
Great.
summary page, you'll be able to see the 3-year projections for how much we anticipate we'll be tapping into that reserve.
Great, okay. that's-
Um,
Can I ask, this, 461, when does it get updated? Is that when we have the audited statement, so it gets updated once a year?
Kind of. So it really depends on when finance finishes year end, and that does not necessarily happen shortly after we get the audited financial statements. And I think it also probably depends on what time of the year they're doing or finishing year end for last year, and then, okay, sorry, I think I'm not explaining this very well. That number probably constantly fluctuates. Based on our.
Interest.
No, so that doesn't, I don't believe you can actually invest, a reserve. I think you can invest reserve funds. Another thing maybe perhaps for me to clarify with the treasurer. But that number there, I can confirm, that does not take into consideration our surplus from last year.
Oh, so that should go.
It will
up
likely
for
go
last
up.
year, and then it'll go down because you're planning on spending some this year. But we won't hear that for another year and a half.
Yes,
Okay.
Nicely summarized.
Nicely summarized.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So will you change this? You will change this number when you have some new figures, and it could be in November, it could be in June, it could be, we don't know when, but you'll change it as you get accurate information.
yes.
When you say last year, you mean the year we're in or the year we're 2024? So our surplus from last year is not included in the 461. What's last year?
2024,
Really?
not in that number.
Okay.
Yes.
We might just want to add that in there.
Okay.
So we'll see that in the 2026 proposed budget, 2024 numbers included or not?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna move along, but if
Okay,
you have
yeah,
any
keep going,
questions after, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, so library surplus reserve is in a town account and it's completely controlled by the board. You do not need to go to council to ask for that money. The only other thing I will say is down the road, if for any reason the funding agreement is opened, that definitely will affect the board's control over that reserve, or could.
Okay.
And yes, okay. Library board savings account. So that is in the library board's bank account. And it's in a high savings, business account. And it's just been growing. And to my knowledge, there's nothing governing what that needs to be spent on. It's just an open reserve.
Do we know where it came from? The funds?
I think it was an amalgamation of a couple of different reserves. There's a staff report from, 2019. I think you had shared it with me, Lori.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, it was I think it was also when, we got control over our own bank account. So it was amalgamation of the various reserve accounts. And that's where it's sitting. This library board GIC, again, it's, and perhaps I should have clarified, it is an investment, but it is held in a library board GIC in our bank account. That is designated for new builds.
That's what, the GIC?
Yes. And this language though came from previous reports. So it's possible, when I go through minutes, I haven't found anything yet. But that probably would have been recorded in minutes, library board minutes, that it was specifically designated for new builds.
Yeah, I don't remember that, so it must have been.
Is there a reason why the 297 isn't also in, GIC or higher interest or so savings?
Yeah.
High anyway.
My understanding would be that perhaps when that was decided, it just makes it more easier to access. But yet it still continues to grow. That's what I think. I could be wrong.
Is it locked in until it matures?
Yes.
But you can get a term deposit or something that's short term and still make a bit more money maybe.
I do recall at some point that we took a look at the savings and Kevin said, really the interest on that is pretty much the same as the investment, so we didn't worry about that. But that of course, interest changes over
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
I think we need to keep an eye on that, because I think that's a higher number than we need on sort of an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and interest rates are much lower now, right? So they're not giving much on it. Okay, let's continue.
Okay. Development charge fund. It requires council resolution to access. And that's what it's sitting at right now.
So is that not invested?
I don't believe so. I don't believe that you can.
You can't. You cannot.
Yeah.
Well, then it's just
Cannot.
deteriorating without,
Yeah.
That might be a provincial legislation requirement. I'm not entirely sure. Do you know, Councilman Kinley?
What was the question? Sorry, what's deteriorating?
Why the DC fund can't be invested?
They have rules on certain finance apps. I can't answer that specifically. All I know is that the short answer from finance when I asked was no.
okay.
I mean, essentially, it's supposed to be used for ongoing infrastructure needs and,
It's
right?
Yeah.
supposed to go
We're
for
supposed to be
new.
spending it.
We're supposed to be
New-
spending
It's supposed to
for
be
new
spent.
build, yeah.
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Development
Spending
charges.
projects, yeah.
Development charges are to be collected and spent. They're not supposed to be saved
Yeah.
and banked on. Just-
I want to avoid people.
So another reason for Craig Leaf.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
General.
So this general,
Yeah.
non-growth related, the treasurer had explained when we went to council asking to access that reserve for the feasibility study, that this money was set up in this reserve, and it had something to do with when DC legislation had changed. And so when I was accessing the Q3 numbers for this number had not changed. It will change down the road when we pay for the space utilization study. So it will still sit at around $50,000 when all is said and done.
Okay, and because we've already asked for use of the full amount, we can use the full amount. We don't have to go back to council, so whatever's left over, we don't have to go and ask because we've already asked for access to it, so it's already sitting.
Um,
We still
no, I
have to do
think
checks and balances. We can't just, yeah. Sorry.
Well,
Jen.
and I think the resolution too is specific to, you can access up to the full amount specifically for the space
Okay.
utilization study.
Great.
So there may be other costs that we can't use that particular reserve for.
And does that spatialization study include the implementation of some of the recommendations?
No, just the study itself.
Good try. Right, so we go back, that's a good reference point. We just have to go back. Now we know we just have to go back and ask it, okay?
Okay. So,
And there's that specification for non-growth related. It's kind of complicated because you can use it for the studies, but not for actual growth projects.
Because that's what the development charge is.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's certain things that are like ongoing maintenance, existing service delivery, and then things that are, yeah, I think that's how they try, they have to identify where the money goes for new growth.
Would it be helpful if for the Q4, I can sit down with the treasurer and get more clarity on that particular reserve?
Yeah, I think it probably would. I mean, I'm surprised you couldn't, since we asked for the specialization study, I'm surprised we couldn't use it for the implementation of the non-growth pieces of that.
yeah,
I will clarify.
yeah, we need new shelving, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
a new table for the meeting rooms and things.
Well, or even if what about the, labor that would take to change the shelving, if you, because that's
Yeah.
a chunk of time.
Yeah.
Effort.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that further.
Okay.
I don't think I'm explaining it properly, but I do remember the language too was specifically for like studies, and I think it does have something to do with DC legislation and when the funds were moved into that account. I'm just not doing a great job at explaining it,
Okay,
and I need help from the treasurer.
and when you ask, if it's, not that we want to do anything, that isn't right, but if there's an amount sitting there that can be moved over into, we might have to make a
Collapse
request,
some
that
of
we can move
these.
it into our savings account.
Yeah.
But it just, again, just for
Yeah,
simplicity,
way too many.
and
Every
one less
time.
thing for them to keep having to
Yeah.
answer. Anyway,
Okay,
Yeah.
So Jen, just a general comment, if it says town line account, that, except for that one, we have to go to council to get resolution to access it?
no, that just means that the town holds it, it's not.
Oh,
our bank
okay,
account.
okay, so where we need, council approval, have you specifically said that in each of them, or?
Yeah, it's really, actually, you know what? I should have included it on this one too. But it would be these two,
The development charge fund and the.
Yeah.
Okay.
because,
Okay,
because this is where I'm not doing a great job. But the reason it's those two is they're related to DCs.
okay.
that's fair.
So even though the fundraising reserve for CHD says town line, and the one below it does, we can use those without,
Yes.
so.
And the other reason too is, so the CHD fundraising reserve is designated specific, so anytime we make any money in fundraising from the museum, at the end of the year, it'll get transferred into that reserve at the discretion of the board to spend specifically on the museum. And I'll speak more to that when we get to the budget too, because I am requesting that we access that for next year. And then the library legacy reserve fund. There is a council bylaw that governs it. And it basically just, that's the board's permission. Well, it provides protection over the fund, but also gives the discretion to the board, essentially, like council can't, or town staff cannot touch. My understanding based on that bylaw, they can't touch that amount, because it specifically says that it is for the library.
But we still have to go to council to get access to it.
I don't believe we do.
Oh, okay.
So which one are you talking about, Jen?
The
Sorry.
library legacy.
Oh, the legacy.
The last one.
Okay.
The last one.
Okay,
Okay.
so I see a note from, the previous finance report, that says it's limited for TBM needs such as our IT.
I clarified that with the treasurer and we can't find anything. Yeah, there's been, I think with the turnover in staffing and then just trying to go through the records to find where some of this language came from, it's been a little bit of a process.
I see.
Clearly,
Well, we're getting there.
yeah.
We
I
have
think
the
so,
same
I think
conversation every
Yeah.
quarter. We go, what?
Yeah. And I think too, it's just a matter of really me being able to get the time to sit down. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a work in progress, but at least the numbers give you an idea of
Yeah.
how much we have in additional funds per se.
And then moving to the variance report, my main question, because it looks like we're sort of on track, we're like 3/4 of the way through for expenses and revenue, but capital, is that because of timing? Is that why we're so far below?
No, it's because
The desk.
the desk,
Darn
the
desk.
$60,000,
Yeah, okay.
which, and I wouldn't even get too focused on, I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be the board's money at the board's discretion on how we want to spend it, but that explains why.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We are where we are with capital.
But wasn't there a point where you were taking that 60,000 out of one of the reserves? Cause you thought you might need to, but now you don't?
Yeah, so
Operations is-
But yes, so technically, when the 2025 budget was approved, we had anticipated that we were going to spend that $60,000 on the desk. We know that that's not happening.
Yeah,
And so when I get to the budget, basically, the way I have it shown is that we would just carry that capital amount forward and spend it next year to implement probably some of the recommendations that will come out of the space study, specifically for replacement furniture. But at the back end of things, it's not technically a capital carry forward because we didn't even spend it.
Mhm.
But I wanted to show it that way so that you could see, it's not like we're requesting an additional $60,000.
yeah.
If that makes
Okay,
sense.
fair enough. And similarly, where does the space utilization study show up in this, in terms of revenue and expenditure?
It will show up in Q4 under contract services.
As capital revenue?
Under contract,
Okay.
under contract services, and then we'll be over budget on that?
Well, no, actually, you know what, that might be, I'm trying to think if that's operating. It might be operating.
Yeah, I think
It would be operating, so there's a contract services line for operating. So basically, what will happen when I get that report is it'll have the additional money. It'll look very different from the budget itself because that was a budget request after the budget was passed. So it'll just show the amount of money and then how much was spent in the operating budget. Yeah, but that's not reflected here.
Looking up a little bit higher, I would think, expected to show up into what, purchase services there?
Yeah.
So that's gonna be.
Yeah.
And it'll show up in revenue under, because it was a transfer, right, from that other account, which,
Yeah.
so it'll show up as what,
Reserves, no.
No, I don't think that's gonna show up on this. This is
Mhm.
It will.
For the Q4.
For Q4, yeah, we haven't, when I pulled the Q3 numbers, there was nothing showing there, so we haven't spent the money yet.
right, and so in revenue, where will it show up?
but it's not in revenue. If the use of one of our reserve funds,
It's not showing here, but it will show in Q4.
But you're saying it shouldn't.
it shows a revenue and as an expense?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
so it'll
Okay.
show up under reserves /
Yeah.
report.
I believe so, yeah.
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 Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we're doing well for Q3.
I have no concerns.
Yeah. All right, so, So I guess we've received that report. We don't need to approve the Q3, but it's the budget that we need to move to.
Yes,
You normally.
Don't we approve?
We need a,
We did receive it already, didn't
oh,
We received it in the reports,
okay.
but we don't approve the Q3.
it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Look at you getting this right.
Oh. That's why I tell you that few minutes while I'm doing that reflection. Okay, budget.
Okay, so, I think what I'll do is I'll just go straight down to the budget itself. I'll try and speak to and summarize some of the comments that I made in the staff report. And then, I mean, if you have questions, obviously let me know. But it might be easier if you're actually looking at it.
Mhm.
And I did receive feedback from the treasurer about a couple of small items, which I want to speak to because I didn't get it until after I published the package. And so, and they're really not significant changes. But essentially, so one of the changes that I got from the treasurer actually, and I'm waiting for clarity on this, is this number from 2025. That's our capital budget. That,
Sorry?
the $140,400, that would have been our capital budget that we funded or were anticipated to fund through the surplus reserve. Obviously, we're not spending that 60,000, but when I got updated numbers, my understanding was they added the space utilization study to that line. And I found that confusing, but I want to talk to her about that, so just throwing that out there. But for the 2026 proposed, the way that I have it laid out is that, this line here is our contribution from council, the 6%. I'm proposing that in total, we at least plan to spend up to $100,000 on implementing the first phase of the space utilization study. You don't have to make that decision right now because technically you can access some of your reserves without, having to go for that second line of approval to council. But I think that it would be responsible to at least include some sort of projected spending on implementing that project in 2026. And maybe it is just to replace or purchase new furniture, and not really anything to do with having to access DCs to tear down walls and that sort of thing. We don't know that yet. But the way I have it presented here is that $60,000 of 100,000 would just be that 60,000 the board had already budgeted for to replace the circulation desk. It's related to the same line in capital, which is replacement of furnishings. And then an additional $40,000 to come out of that high interest savings account that's in the library board's bank. And by doing that, it actually reduces the impact on our surplus reserve. And then I also included a recommended $5,000 to come out of the fundraising reserve to finish a film that we already started this year for Real History. And the film that we're working on, it's going to be a series of episodes that culminate into one feature-long film, and it will be on the history of the Collingwood Township. And so all of the little episodes would feature specific hamlets or communities within Collingwood Township. So we just need another $5,000 to finish the project. And that's what the fundraising reserve is for anyway. So that's sort of how I have it.
Sorry, Jen, what was the 40,000 for again?
To help implement space utilization. And the reason I selected that reserve is it's a very healthy reserve. It's not designated really for any other purpose. It's open. and it's more easily accessible than, say, the GIC. The GIC is invested and designated specifically for expansion, so why not just continue to let it grow until we know, until we have any direction from council to actually move forward with expansion.
And I would like to get those reserves down. Like, we've been saying that for a while, but we never need to access them, but we really should.
So, sorry.
We need to start building and then we'll access. them.
Yeah.
So just back to the other conversation we had about using the reserves to make sure that so regardless of expansion, et cetera, that if it takes time, it's so that we're actually able to fund all the programming and staff needs, et cetera. So when I look at 2027 and 2028, and you're spending up to the max anticipated council contribution. So your feeling is that within the anticipated levy and other revenue, we don't need, you're not gonna need additional staff, additional, et cetera, that we would have to pull from that reserve. Like you can do everything within our levy to run the existing.
Yes.
2 buildings, staff, all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's what, because otherwise I'd like
To
to
cover-
earmark, I think,
Sorry.
because it's like fundamentally making sure that all of our existing footprint services, et cetera, obligations, anticipation for, okay, in the next 2 years, we're gonna have more people, we'd like to run more programs, et cetera. We might need an extra staff. I just wanna make sure that we've got that covered.
Actually, no, the answer is no.
Okay,
I did not do any analysis in the operating budget for 2027 to 2029 for human resources. So this would be to maintain our current staffing levels.
How come it goes up by 150,000, whereas only gone up by 50,000 between 25 and 26?
Oh, sorry. That's because, so for 2027, I did not recommend or budget for 2026 and, sorry, one second here, where are we looking? So these projections would include potentially filling, I believe, the manager of engagement position.
Okay.
So it just has remained
Yeah.
vacant for 2026 proposed budget. And then when the board is considering 2027.
At which point we're gonna probably have some more space or something. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
I think it would just be helpful then if we identified down there, so even if we had the reserve, and so it's sort of a declining, so 2026, if we're, as of what we know right now, we don't know what it will be, but what we have right now. So if we're gonna take out 130, we're gonna have 300 grand left. And if you're projecting in 2027 or 2028 to need some of that, that we're earmarking it. So then we know, okay, we need to earmark some of that, make sure that we're paying for whether it is extra staff, et cetera, but that the basic needs are covered. So we're not spending reserves.
Is that not what the line transfer from surplus reserve fund is
Yes,
showing?
Well, sorry, I thought you were just saying you hadn't included that. And so
I'm
therefore,
confused.
okay, so the transfers from, that's gonna cover,
She's just getting it
Yeah.
balanced because
Yeah.
she's not doing detailed forecasting.
yeah, no, that's fine, okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say, but, so this is, also with these projections, just based on, I mean, I can go over, the capital budget for those years too, if it kind of helps provide clarity. But by, 2029, we actually have a projected surplus. So
Well,
it's
this
really
is,
hard.
I know.
I don't know,
It's
yeah.
okay. It's good, Jan. It's a good
Yeah,
news
oh my
story.
God,
It's
it's
just-
such a good job, yeah.
It's not a bad news story.
Yeah, no, it's
Well,
definitely good.
it's just, it's that surplus reserve fluctuates so much that, I guess I could do projections, but I think starting first with, what Councillor McKinley mentioned, establishing thresholds
Mhm.
for reserves is important. And that would also probably help with making accurate projections.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Yeah, just, I mean, if we're covered and that's what that surplus transfer is, then that's fine.
And that's part of the reason I asked about when it gets updated on this page, is
Mhm.
how much we know we're working with.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Cool.
So if I'm just gonna go down to the consolidated budget. And some of the major changes here, or maybe we'll go down, I just wanna speak to this quickly. So with our capital budget, for. 2 seconds, so. No, down here, this will be easier. Yes. So we have, our capital budget will fluctuate, but we anticipate that we're going to have a pretty large capital budget in 2028. Based on, we'll probably need to replace our website. And then there's equipment in Elisa's technology plan.
But right now, we're only doing 26.
Yeah, I just,
You're just highlighting some of the.
yeah, I just wanna, and for irregularities, or, you know, why is our capital budget that much more 2 years from now, but then it goes down in 2029?
Mhm.
2028 will be a pretty big year for capital. And that's not even thinking about, any potential expansion.
Okay.
But for 2026, the operating budget, I have included in my report, there's just a series of lines that either we got rid of and just were consolidated. So there was a budget line in the past for minor capital, and I think it was like $2,000, and we were using it, you know, if we needed to buy a replacement mouse or a keyboard and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, what's the difference between that and office supplies? It's really the same thing. So there was some consolidating that way. I would say with the operating budget, there are probably the most changes to the museum's operating budget, and just really going through it with a fine tooth comb with the curator and identifying what's actually needed. Or, you know, any sort of shortfall. So, we definitely increased the training budget for museum staff for 2026. But then I was able to kind of save costs elsewhere, so there was just really kind of moving around of numbers, but I don't think there's any major in terms of the consolidated operating budget.
But you are still anticipating a surplus for 2026 of 75,000. So that would point to not needing to take some of the money from the reserve fund.
2026, she's showing bringing in $3,855 from the reserve fund, so it's actually quite small amount.
Small, yeah.
But I do want to question that number, because your report says it's going to be $6,875, and that's not what actually showed up in there.
On that line, okay,
So on page 2 of your report, also the projected deficit of $6,875.40 to be funded through the library's reserve fund. But in the actual budget, that comes out as $2,855.40. So I'm not sure why the difference.
Where's the difference? I see the projected deficit, but where's the, what number did you say is?
So you see in the report where she gives the projected deficit.
Yeah,
And you see on that summary page, which just disappears from the
yeah,
thing, it shows the line transfer from service reserve fund. And then the 2026 proposed, it shows $3,855.40. So I'm just saying her report and her budget differs by $3,000.
Sorry.
okay.
Oh, okay.
$3,800.
Just give me a sec.
That's fine. may simply be that your report was written before the actual final number came through, and so it's changed. So don't spend a lot of time on it, just give me that.
Which one is the right,
information.
the right number?
I just didn't want to know for sure what I did wrong. But I guess that's not really efficient to do this.
So we'll validate which number is right.
Yeah, I'll have to look
So
at
I
that.
just according to the spreadsheet, that the 3,000 is the accurate number.
Yeah,
I had one other question in terms of the actual spreadsheet,
okay.
and you have on the, what section is this? Services, you have a $3,000 amount.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is that for the strat planning?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and thank you for bringing that up. We decided to get rid of having an entirely separate budget for strategic planning and just integrated it into the operating budget as purchase services. So whether or not we think we'll need more than that, I think it's a little hard to say right now, but
Can you go up to your print stuff where you have one-time requests underneath? Your nice summary that you have there.
Okay.
So you say, one-time allocation of 6,000 to replace the people counter. Is that 60,000 or is that 6,000?
6.
It is 6. So what's the 60,000 then for? What desk are you talking about?
So when the board approved the 2025 budget, there was a cap in the capital budget, there was $60,000 to replace the
desk.
circulation desk.
Okay, and that's
At the
different than
library?
the people counter. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's good.
I had a question about, on your report there, so where you've combined museum programming. So library programs held at the museum will now be reported under the library's programming budget. I don't know how significant it is, but does that remove visibility for library services we're providing in our second location? I'm just thinking ahead to, hey, you know what, here's everything we do at Craigley already. And this is the budget we need to execute that. And then, so I don't know if I don't know what the total number is, but it's just considering when we combine things, it becomes difficult to say how much it costs to run another, right? Here's the cost to run another location. And we do run library programs. And the cost for library program X. Again, because it's, we need staff to do that. So combine, I know that it's easier. I'm just asking the question about visibility, and we just mindfully thinking where it will suddenly make it look like it's not as expensive to run another location. So it's not a decision point. It's just really more about a question.
I think, well, there was always like it was like $750 that historically would be put in the budget for library programming at the depot, and it was never spent.
Okay.
And so
There's the answer.
that was
Okay.
why
Okay, that's
I took
great.
it out.
That's fine. If it's never spent and that's not a thing, that it's really just
But you can
A
drive
flag,
down
that
in
is.
each of these boxes too, can't you?
that somebody
Yeah,
else.
so if
Okay.
we ever wanted you
And we
to.
did spend, yeah, okay.
I would say too, like right now, just even when we think about space, there's really no library programs that happen at the depot because they can't.
So if that, so which is also a great reason not to have
Yeah.
it as a line item on the budget. There is no library program because we don't have space.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
we've been doing
Okay,
tech
that's
support more recently, but that's really just part of an existing staff
Drop it.
members. Yeah,
Okay, no, that's great.
yeah.
I have 2 other questions I'd like to ask. You have one under community engagement, it's a line you decided to remove and you put it in with the library program. And it seems to me that's kind of a fundamentally different thing. Programming is the going out of stuff the community needs. Community engagement is bringing information in for what we need.
The $2,000 that was set aside in the community engagement budget line, I think gave the manager of community engagement a budget, which ended up being spent largely on what I thought was programming. So I don't know, when I think about consultation of sorts, like, or outreach supplies, even if it's markers and post-it and whatever else, I think well, then it's office supplies. But then those are also supplies that say we purchased with community engagement to do for XYZ. Anything we didn't use, we just used for programming. So it's,
Maybe the community engagement was simply misnamed. See, if we haven't really.
It was never really well defined in the role, was it? Well, or operationalized.
yeah, and I think too, now that we've filled the engagement role, and that specific position reports to the manager of public services, and that manager's budget is the programming budget.
Okay, do we think we have any community engagement, like real community engagement, that we want to do next year? And
Beyond strat planning?
yeah, like I'm thinking about the space utilization, and at some point, we talked about stakeholder review, which may already be covered in the contract we have with, Salter, but we may also want to be doing some other, depending on where that lands, do we want to be doing
Right.
some, community engagement in Prager?
If that's the case, again, I think it depends on the type of engagement. So if it's, if we're doing it, are you insinuating that we would be doing it versus hiring somebody to do it? Because if we're hiring a consultant to do engagement, then it would just be purchase services versus community engagement. But if we're doing it internally, the supplies that we need to do the engagement, to me, it's office supplies, like, or it could be, like, it could fall under other
Excellent
budgets.
answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that,
That's all I
Yeah.
need to know.
I think the difference is if this was community outreach, where we are bringing library services externally to the library, and even if that's a line item under programming, because that is something that is important just to know about, but different than the engagement. Engagement sounds.
So I'm fine with the program, meeting. It's
Yeah.
just, I just thought we had a budget for engagement that was being used for our purposes as opposed to delivering a program.
Right.
But we don't seem to have a budget for that, and you said when we do, we either give it as a contract because we're putting it up for somebody else to do it for us, or it's just markers and dots and things.
yeah.
And my other question was to do with not refilling the management position, and yet you're considering it for 2027. Could you talk a little bit more about that thinking?
I wanted to bring it back to the board to consider, because I also don't know. Right now, if we, and with the space that we have and the team that we have, operationally, it does not make sense to fill that role. But I don't know what's going to change.
After this
Yes.
study.
And I also think too, the decision was never to officially get rid of the role. It's just, when do we want to fill it?
Mhm.
And I think it also depends on a lot of other factors too, like, our reserves, and can we fill it for 1 year before having, I don't know. I think that it's a really complicated.
Plus, we have nowhere to put them, so.
We are hiring somebody now. We hired somebody now. So where will they go?
Well, they've taken, like, space-wise, you mean?
Yeah.
The same spot where the manager was.
Okay.
Yeah, so there really isn't space.
Yeah.
We
So
never
what-
had enough space for all of those positions, but I think we also never had a time where all of those roles were actually actively filled.
So you never needed all that.
No.
stuff.
No, and it was for a variety of different factors too, like,
So essentially for 2020, just so I'm getting my years right, for 2026.
Yeah.
Your feeling is you have enough staff to implement the programs we need, the development of the strategic plan, and once because will be a number of months before we decide the next steps on recommendation from the space utilization. So theoretically, a manager might take 6 months to fill anyway, kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I will mention too, though, just because we're talking about staffing, is right now we have 2 interpreter roles at the museum, and they get 10 hours a week. And so what's problematic about it is, when I think about trying to fill either of those roles, should it be vacant, I think it'll be really hard to do. But I think operationally, and we've heard even through some of the consultation with the space study so far, people want more museum programs, but it's really hard to make any progress with some of the more part-time staff there, because they're only there 10 hours a week. So how much can you really accomplish in 10 hours? And so I'm proposing we bump up those positions to 15 hours. And I think it will help. It's not much of an additional cost. And should there be any reason down the road where we need, I don't know, say a full-time position, it'd be a lot easier to justify. Or if they got, I don't know, if things were to amalgamate, you've got 30 hours.
Mhm.
So to move something to full-time, it would just be,
Merging the
addition-
people.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you have people in those positions now?
yes.
And they're okay to work the
And
extra?
interpreting what?
Oh, like why is it called?
What's their?
What's their
It's not French.
No, it's not. I don't know. I think maybe, I don't know. I didn't come up with
It's not a
the
real
job title.
interpreter.
No, no.
It's not like what you would think as
In the
a,
hospital where we had to have
Yeah.
every language,
Yeah.
so there used to be nature interpreters that would educate people, so they were in, like, the interpretation was, they weren't
Cultural.
translating.
interpretation.
Yeah, it was like, teaching their knowledge to people. That was the
Oh,
interpret.
okay.
Like, how do you interpret nature and what does it mean? That sort of thing. So it'd be the same thing. How do you interpret history and what does it mean?
Well, and I think down the road too, there probably should be some more analysis with some of the job descriptions, because there really isn't. On paper, there's a difference between the interpreter and the museum technician. In reality, the roles are not very different.
So on paper, is the interpreter more public focused?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
Sorry, as it relates to the budget. So do you mean many of the job descriptions? Or just within that? I was more thinking about
Yeah.
from a budget perspective, would you need someone to actually do a review and audit or whatever, but it's just those two. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's really.
Are they old job specs?
Marie has her hand up.
Oh, Marie, hi.
I was just waiting for a time to sneak my voice in. Just on the page that's there, just a quick question about the people counter. To what is a people counter? Oh, the people counter, the thing that goes, okay, never mind. I'm thinking of a counter, but it's the counting of the number of the people. Just process that. Why go back and pay an annual fee of $500? What's that for?
Probably updates to the software. I can't remember the specifics. I can ask Elise that.
Okay, just wondering why it's not just a one-time purchase but that does make sense if there's.
I think it's a web-based software too. Like, it's a much more advanced system. It's not just something you stick on the wall and then you go and record the numbers.
That's
there's-
good.
There's actual
I'm
analysis.
glad you asked for that, clarity. I was wondering what it was.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm just conscious that it's 4:00.
Can I ask one
Yes.
question? And actually, Sean, maybe you can validate this for me, because I don't have it in front of me, but
No, I
I'm pretty
can't.
sure in the budget that was just shared, in the plan, the town's budget, the number that appears by the library is $1,429,015. Like, it's a different number than ours. And I noticed the one you're using is from the May estimate, I guess. So anyway, there is a different number that's been presented in the town plan for our budget for next year. And I think we just need to make sure.
The
We're
council.
using- Yeah,
Okay.
Perhaps because that's the estimated 6% of the overall budget.
This one, are you saying it's not 1.35?
no, it's more, so the line item in the proposed, the draft budget for the town is more than what we have.
So
And yes,
that-
I didn't know, so sorry, help, so Sean, sorry,
Yeah.
what were you saying?
That being said, Joanne, and that's a fair point. Yeah, but that is where that and Jen can correct me if I'm wrong, but my thought is that's we plan our budget. That's sorry, the town budget. That's what's allocated because it's got to be transparent. And then what Jen has put together was based on the numbers she had to work with at the time. But it doesn't mean, like, what that means is that that's where that reserve fund comes into play. If I'm not mistaken, Jen, is that's like technically we'd be receiving an overage, and that's where it would go into that reserve, right, Jen?
Yes, I don't know if that's what Joanne's asking though. Joanne, were you saying that the 6% for 2026 is different and it's
Yeah.
higher?
It's higher than what we're using.
What is the difference? How much
It's a
money?
43,500. It's a big number. So,
We would actually just change our transfer from surplus reserve to 0 and we'd have a
Yeah.
surplus this year.
yeah, and again, it's fine. The two numbers should match. That's, and it could be because what we got was, we're using a number from May.
Yeah.
And essentially, I assume that the current draft is using what the final levy, like the final numbers from 2025 levy were. And then they take 6% of that, right? So we had an early, we would have had at the interim tax statement, they're using the final, anyway, so let's just
Okay, and that
validate.
is, okay, yes. And that's
'Cause-
what you were trying to say too, McKinley?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't understand.
Regardless of where it goes, I just think we make sure that our numbers match.
I agree.
Because if we have 43,000.
So there's two things that we found. One was the projected,
Oh, the transfer from surplus?
no, the projected deficit. We're saying that number is actually different. So there's a few little loose ends here. So does this mean we don't
You don't have to approve it today.
oh, okay.
The only thing, if it's not approved today, it's going to mean that when the town's budget book is published, they're not going to have the approved library budget.
How do you suggest we do that then? Looking at Lori.
But I think we need to have the corrected version
Yeah.
in front of us before we make a vote on it.
Yeah.
We could do it by email or something separate if you wanted.
I don't think
We can't pass it.
have things by email.
I'd be inclined to approve the budget, but subject to confirmation of the final number.
Okay,
Yeah,
so of the
6%.
of the town.
Council contribution.
And then this, I still need to clarify too, but at the end of the day though, we will have a surplus. Because we're not spending,
And you're gonna make sure that the 3855 and the
yes,
6875 are reconciled.
yeah, I think what happened,
It's all right. It's just, yeah. So then our motion would be to approve the budget subject to,
Confirmation of the council contribution for 2026.
yeah, and, just clarification of the
I think,
projected deficit.
I'm going to put this into writing for Franz, because
but that's, that the projected deficit is from last year. So it doesn't change our budget. Is that correct?
sorry, I lost.
Oh, sorry, so it would be,
No.
so what we need to clarify is the transfer from surplus reserve fund.
In 2025, she said it's the one that's in doubt.
Yeah.
But that would change, that doesn't change anything on this page at all, does it?
Not really.
No, not for 2026.
No, I think it was just the staff report. The finance report where it said the 6,000.
Yeah. I guess, I think the staff report is wrong. I think it probably got written before.
Yeah, okay, so we don't need to.
So
okay.
we'll mention that.
Okay. So we'll just say, so the motion would be, if we're ready to do that, and then we're gonna do a time check and look at what we So you're gonna type this?
That the board approve the 2026 budget as presented, subject to confirmation of the 2026 municipal contribution.
All right, so,
I'll move that.
okay, Lori's
I'll
moved that,
second.
and Joanna seconded, all in favor? Carried. Is that online? Marie and,
Couldn't see Sean, but
Marie, you put your hand up, and Sean? Sorry, Marie, I don't mean to miss you.
we can see you now. We couldn't see.
Yeah, we couldn't see you before. Okay, all right, so that's good. So I'm going to suggest that we, maybe skip the board evaluation to put that to January. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, we've already done the Craig Leith Working Group. The 30th anniversary, do you want to do something quick there?
Yeah, it could be pretty quick. I'm just writing, so Franz, have the library board evaluation results deferred to January. Are we deferring the strat planning too?
I can give 2 seconds.
Yeah, we can do those
Do that.
quickly. So, I think, oh yeah, sorry, Joanne, I missed you. Yeah.
Do you want me to
Okay.
just give the quick highlights? Is essentially that because we have not had a meeting, there's no huge update. Jen has said that she's confirmed timing of the youth consultations in February, working with the high school and the elementary school, so that will come. And I have talked to OLS about the availability of their, like the potential for a consultant from them, which is quite cost effective. If we decide to meet, we're gonna need that, but we'll be talking about that at the next meeting.
Okay.
That's it.
And the next meeting is December.
Sorry, December 3rd. Yes.
They're at the depot.
At the depot.
Yeah.
Next meeting for what?
For the working group.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it.
December 3rd is pretty full.
You don't have to come to this one.
Great. All right, and 30th anniversary, John?
Are we, well, there's also Lori's verbal report. I guess you kind of already
Did it.
Okay. So 30th anniversary, we have our final event, the December soiree on December 4th. And we have added the museum curator to the panel. So, the curator will be speaking to, the history of library services even before Ellie Shore. We have the very first CEO, Ken Haig of Ellie Shore, speaking to how this building came to be. And him and I initially talked about interviewing one another and asking specific questions. We're still sort of formalizing the format, but I will speak to the future of library services. So it'll be that kind of discussion. We have had questions on whether or not it's a formal gala. The answer is no. There's no formal dress code, but we will be serving wine and light refreshments. There'll be pictures and it'll be a nice celebration, but yeah, it's not a formal
Thank
event.
God, I never
by
even
any means.
considered that.
I think in the
You
past,
don't need to bring your.
I think you said, I think
black
one of
dress
the
on.
announcement calls it a gala.
really,
Calls it a gala or something. There's a word.
we call it a soiree, but
Or
I don't
soiree,
really
sorry, that
see-
was it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think in the past, our anniversary celebrations have been more formal. If it was like 50 years or 100 years, like maybe we would do. But I didn't think that it really warranted.
So there's not a dress code in effect. Well, except you have to.
Panelists, we might dress up a little bit, but no, it's not the expectation that the public or board members have to be super dressed up.
Okay, so that's,
It'd be really nice to see everyone there if
Yes.
you're available.
Yep.
registered.
Okay, that's okay.
Perfect.
It starts at 7. I can see McKinley's typing.
Are you in town, Marie?
Oh,
Excellent.
good.
Yes, I'll be back and I plan to attend. It's in my calendar.
Great.
Awesome.
That's when we'll be talking about, or officially launching the 30th anniversary coloring book too.
Mm.
So Beverly Smith, who designed it and is our chair of the ACC, will be at the event.
Sean says his video and sound has stopped.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. Now we have Marie had sent some information on the board assembly. Can that be deferred till January, Marie, or is there something?
Well, just a quick highlight, if I may, just to connect some dots here, because the Ontario Public Library statistics are coming out. So maybe those individual statistics about our library could be forwarded to the Salter Pilon group. It may be beneficial to them. And we can also get customized reports comparing our library to another library. So maybe that would have a powerful impact. Also, just that the OLS is prepared to help us with our strat plan, as Joanne already mentioned, and with succession planning when it's coming up to be time for that. And then if you just have a look at the notes, there are a couple of interesting ideas just at the bottom of my notes, but that's all I needed to say.
That's good. Thank you. And thanks for connecting me with Allison. That's good.
I'm glad it worked well.
Thank you, Marie.
That reminds me, do we need to reappoint Marie as the board rep for the assemblies for next year?
I
Well,
find it to continue, I'm used to it, and
Can you stay, Marie?
sure.
Can you?
Yep.
Great.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to do that?
I'll move that Marie Swift be ENPL's rep to OLS Board Assembly for 2026.
Seconded.
All in favor? Carried.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have two things left.
Assembly rep.
Well, we have the key messages before but we have, what was the other? I'm missing something. We just thought of something that we had to.
We don't have to do the.
Oh, we have to do the chair and the, yes,
Yeah.
so that's in the closed session. Okay, so.
So we have to put in closed session.
Okay, so let's move to the key messages. So is everybody okay if we spend another half hour? Are you all right?
Yep.
Yes.
Let's just check with McKinley. So I just want to clarify, although he did participate in that vote,
But he can hear us, we just can't hear him. I guess.
but I am going to clarify because it might be that he just saw
Oh, I see.
that I put this in here.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Is there paper towel in the washing here?
Here's the next. We're gonna need a new word signature folder.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I see that.
Watch your phone there.
Watch your phone, yeah. Oh, and the glasses, yeah. It's making a little trail towards Joanne's stuff here.
Hmm.
Here.
Did you go to the kitchen? That was smart.
Ah. Throw all those mothering instincts come in quickly, don't they? Find the rag. Okay.
It's only water, thinking.
See, your paper there, it's kind of soaked. Just like it's.
My notes. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry, guys.
Let's do that.
That cut us all out of it. Stretch.
Okay,
Maybe more.
all right.
So Sean's
I
just
think
went
you're
to
good.
leave and try and come back in. He can't hear us.
Oh, okay.
Is
Marie,
he-
you can hear us? Yeah, it's Sean's computer.
All right, so key messages. I think we want to set, we heard an interim, a progress report from the consultants.
Yeah.
Space utilization. Got the 2026 budget. And the Q3, I guess, the Q3.
I'll put a reminder for the 30th event, the
Okay.
soiree.
Did we want to say something about the consultation with youth is scheduled for February?
We have a week, like a rec week, but not a specific day.
Just say February.
Is it confirmed though? Is it gonna happen in February?
Well, they gave us, this is the best
Yeah.
time for it to take
Okay.
place, so we're just finalizing a day.
So, yeah.
I just don't wanna put it down if it's not 100%.
Yeah,
We're planning for
Tentatively.
that.
Plan,
Planned for that.
Yeah.
I think we should mention that, opportunities or, how do we phrase the Craiglee working group,
For opportunities for collaboration.
but we are
We are.
collaborating already in a way.
Or is it there's an update on Craiglee Working Group's plan for community consultation and direction from the board to explore opportunities for cooperation.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, is that it?
Think so.
All right.
We passed the budget, did you say that?
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Okay, so can I have a mover
Appointed our-
for the,
2026 board assembly rep.
right,
I'll move it.
okay, Carol, seconded by Chris.
Sure.
All in favor of the key messages?
We also have, information about the chair, vice chair, by the end of the meeting.
Yes,
Oh, and CEO evaluation.
yes, okay.
And Franz, if you haven't already done this for that, before that vote, just note that Councilor McKinley isn't in the meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you. You probably already did that, but just in case.
So now, our next regular board meeting is scheduled for January 15th. And, I think we're gonna adjourn this meeting and move into a closed session where we'll be discussing, the CEO
We'll be discussing closed meeting items.
closed meeting items.
Sorry, what did I miss?
Oh, you're.
We're just gonna adjourn
Back.
so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Pick any two people.
Sorry. Well, I think you need to have a motion to move into closed session.
But we don't adjourn in the open
Let
session?
me adjourn that once we come back.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Marie put her hands up.
Okay, so Marie has moved that we move into closed session, seconded by Joanne, and all in favor? Passed.